Hello and welcome to the For We Are Many podcast. My name is Rob and I will be one of your hosts and always your comrade. Tonight we've got Captain James of the Newark chapter of the new Afrikan Black Panther Party to talk about the vision for the Panthers in 2024. Whoever wants to introduce yourself next, go ahead.
I introduce myself. My name is Chet Nieves. I'm an Attica brother, Attica survivor, and Attica fighter, and a warrior. And of course, I'm here to learn some more.
All power.
That's it. I'm Storm. I'm one of the locals around here now. I'm a lumpen proletariat of like
I forget to say that.
pan-Celt and filling in the gaps. I always have that. People give intros and they remind me of things I should have said. I'm like, oh shit. But yeah, I'm of pan-Celtic heritage and English heritage. I've been a Marxist for 8 years, and that's it. Here to show some solidarity to my Panther brethren and learn what the vision is for the Black Panther Party as it goes forward.
Yo, I'm the other Rob. I'm a little late, so to introduce myself, I'm a fellow UPM member. I'm a truck driver, and that's about it. That's all I got for right now because I was rushing to get up here to get out here. So sorry about that.
And Captain James, if you want to introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize about that. All power and good evening to everyone. I'm Captain James of the Newark chapter of the new Afrikan Black Panther Party. I'm a revolutionary. I'm a lumpen proletariat. And I'm just here to have boots on the ground and do the necessary work to help liberate all oppressed people everywhere, as well as the political prisoners that are still behind the walls that gave their life and their freedom and their time and their efforts to help liberate and educate and raise the consciousness of the masses. I just want to give credits and a lot of thanks to people like Conrad Shea and other prisoners at the time, political prisoners that were incarcerated in places like Attica or that were far worse. I just want to say thank you to being a part of revolutionary history. Because, people understand it's somewhat the same struggle and the same struggle and oppression that we as people that have freedom experience, but it's way worse because sometimes you don't have a voice. So I just want to give people like Conrad Shea, those that are still here and those that have fallen, the respect and the honor that they are due because they helped pave the way in so many different ways and broke a lot of ground, especially with solidarity and unity of classes and people and color and ethnicities and everything coming together for one common cause, and that's to be treated with dignity, respect, and humanity. So I'm just gracious to be amongst the ranks of so many great people that is selfless.
Thank you.
All power.
All power to the people.
Is Comrade Zen still in here, or is she still having technical issues?
The latter.
All right. Well, I guess I shouldn't be waiting for her to introduce herself then, should I? Um, let's see. What are we doing here? So I guess we can. How do you want to do this? Do you have like a prepared statement that you want to say, or do you want us to ask you questions, or I mean, just like a general discussion? How do you want to do this?
It's however y'all feel comfortable. It's however y'all feel comfortable. You can ask questions. I prefer that. I think you get the best reaction from a person when you catch them off guard. You get a more sincere statement out of a person rather than someone just critiquing and detailing something pre-written. You're
I
able
agree.
to, yeah, you're able to catch them on their toes, and see through a lot of nonsense when you ask certain questions, because when a person prepare their own statement, they tend to stay away from certain topics that do need to be discussed.
There's also the fact that like when things are curated, they sound clinical. It's like people will always have these like templated links to, oh, I'm an intercommunal relations person. Here's my templated link to send to organizations of here who we are. Here's our clinical list of things, and it's like you just got like no color to you, no like organicness to how you're throwing out. It doesn't come across like a conversation. It's just like here's my clinical commandments for what I think as a Marxist, and it's
I agree 100%. I agree. Yes.
I agree as well. There's a lot of that. So, what made you want to get involved with the new African Black Panther Party?
I would have to say first, it was my father, because my father was an original member of the Black Panther Party. He joined the Black Panther Party in 1967 or 68. He was a part of the Jersey City, New Jersey chapter. And him raising me, even though it was decades apart from when they were really prevalent in their heyday, um, with the values and the morals and just the awareness to love yourself, love who you are, love your community, love the people around you, and to be aware that it's not a color issue, it's a class issue, and other people are oppressed just like you, and not just in this country, but all over the world. And to just feel like I had information and truth that a lot of people didn't have or did have and didn't do nothing with. So I would really have to give the thanks to my father with teaching me with those principles and the values and raising me with the 10-point program and self-defense and just taking pride in yourself and your community and just making your life worth living, doing work that needs to be done and not just standing by being a victim of oppression, but doing something about it. Because if you're not a part of the solution, you're damn sure a part of the problem.
That's right.
All power.
Very true.
You got any questions, Cara?
um not right now. No, I got like
I
swamped
got
with a lot
some
of ideas and just blanked myself.
I know you do, Rob. I know you do.
because I turned my mic, turned the camera on.
Yeah.
You want me
Yep.
to go ahead? Want me to
Yeah.
go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay, so um, I've been knowing Chairman Shaka for a while now, and then familiar with comrades out in Newark. But describe the conditions out in Newark. Maybe something that we don't know about, like what's going on with the people out there, what's going on with any programs or things that you guys are doing out there.
Okay. So let's tackle that question. Newark, Newark is has been for many years, and to the best of my knowledge, because I'm a history buff, I like going back to the past and looking at a lot of different things, especially pertaining to people and the plight of people. And social studies is one of my favorite subjects. But anyway, Newark has been decaying since the '60s, the late '60s, and throughout the '70s. And Newark is one of those cities that is often forgot about in a sense, although they receive a lot of funding for things. I would put it to a liking like a Chicago, like a Philadelphia, like a LA in the '80s, even like a Detroit as of recently, where people are put into governmental offices and they don't have the people of the community in mind, and they often get forgotten about, or they get dismayed and they get hoodwinked and they get bamboozled into thinking that things that are being put into place are to benefit them, and it's really not. I also believe at the same time, you know, there's a lot that's kept from the community in North and the people of North as far as what would really help them. And I believe organizations such as the new African Black Panther Party and movements like the United Panther Movement can help aid in that, knowing what rights, what programs is available, who are your allies, who are your enemies. And I believe that you have to identify who is the enemy. It's not the person on the corner. It's not the person that's living next to you. It's the people that basically dictate to you. Because if you think about a lot of these urban areas, where there's a lot of oppression and a lot of minorities, it's running under dictatorship type rule. You understand what I'm saying? Because in a sense, they really have no say on what's going on. One, because they're not educated, and two, because of the things that is being established. Like for instance, last week they had a curfew that they was trying to impose in North for all people under 18. Now, where is that legal and binding that because you're under the age of 18, you can't be out past 11 o'clock at night? Now, we all know that there's not a lot out there good at 11 o'clock at night, but say if you're an individual coming from work after 11 o'clock at night, you understand what I'm saying? You trying to get home, but now this leaves room for police to discriminate against you, pull you over, stop you, frisk you, question you, because you have a city that's under siege, not only by negative influences, but by so-called positive influences like the police. It's over-policed. They're overran by drugs. They're overran by poverty. They're overran by gangs. You understand what I'm saying? I believe that there's a lot of different structures that can be taken with communities like North if the people was implicated in the decision-making process. If they were heard, if these so-called politicians came off their high horse and came to the people and asked them what their needs was. And the needs are quite evident if you walk through any street in North. It's quite evident what people need. It's the 10-point program that we stand on. They need good, decent education. They need the truth to be told to them. They need people that's really going to represent them and keep them in mind in every decision-making process. They don't need to be canceled out. They don't need gentrification of people from other ethnicities or other countries coming over, buying property and displacing them. And they've been living in this community for generations. And this is all that they know. And we know that that's going on in a lot of communities. They're allowing these banks and things to come and buy up this property, but they're not allowing them to rent, or they're making things so inflated where they can't even afford to stay in this community anymore. And the social service programs is not helping. But there's a real lack there in places like Newark. And I think Newark can be an example for the Camdens, for the Jersey cities, for the Pattersons, because they have so many of the same issues. And I think also, first and foremost, people have to realize that they are the power structure and they have the power to get the change that they seek and desire. Now, as far as what the new African Black Panther Party is doing, we do the free food program every Wednesday. We go out into the community on foot, and we go on the block and we talk to the people in the community, and we ask them, what are your issues? What are your complaints? What you think will help do better in your community, for your children, for yourself, your grandmother, for your mother. And we just sit back and we look and we try to come up with survival programs, not only to bring the 10-point program into fruition right before their eyes, but to come up with other programs that can help aid as well. We're in the process of looking for a headquarters where we can start doing after school programs, so kids can have a safe place to come and learn and do their homework, or just be around people, because we know a lot of these children don't have their fathers, they don't have their mothers, so they need positive influences to be around them. And that's some of the work that we're doing. We're in the process of getting ready to go speak at a men's shelter right now, to help them and realize that, homelessness is running rampant right now, and that there are safe places for you. And there is real help where you don't have to feel like you're compromising yourself and asking for help and receiving certain help where it's not going to keep you tied in. It's like, a lot of these programs, they offer you help, but it comes at a cost. Everything that we give you is for free, and we don't want nothing but your wellness and your well-being. That's it. We don't need you to sign no documents. We don't want you to go to this program. We don't want you to do this, that, and the third, which a lot of things dealing with governmental assistance programs or politically driven programs is is um is normally the norm, you know. And that's basically it. We just doing a lot of political community work and activism in the community. We're gonna start going to city council meetings and addressing the issues in the community with the homelessness, people being put out of their homes, where people are where these people are buying these properties, and they're either putting the rent so high they can't afford to live there, or they're just putting them out. Period. Because now they own the property. Now, what do you do with a mother that has 2 or 3 children and she's a single parent and she's doing the best that she can, but you telling her you don't want to rent to her anymore because, one, you want to either vacate the building, tear it down, and turn it into condominiums, or you just want to raise the rent and you know that you don't want to deal with Section 8 or these other type of subsidy programs. So it's like we're doing a lot of different things right now, and it's good work. We want to try to arrange a rally right now to um, bring awareness to the political prisoners right now that are still behind the wall and held captive. To try to raise funds for them, for their lawyers, and things of that nature, to try to help bring these brothers home, because we know it's going to take more than protesting to bring them home. It's going to take more than petitions. It's going to take more than going to Congress and everything else. It's going to take money and funding. So we have a lot of different things out there right now that we're working on, and you'll see in the near future it's going to be great. But I really just would like for all these organizations that are revolutionary vanguard movements to unify with one another. You understand what I'm saying? And do the work together, because we can't be splintered. We definitely cannot be splintered as revolutionaries. If we call ourselves revolutionaries, then we need to stand on business together. Whether if you're black, you're white, you live an alternative lifestyle, whether you're Christian, Muslim, whatever you are. At the end of the day, when you put that cloak on and you say that I'm a revolutionary and I'm here against oppression, I'm here to better the community, then you have to be open and willing to work with other people. Because when you try to do things by yourself, you really don't get far. I see a lot of these organizations where they're asking for help. And if we have a surplus, why can't we help them? And vice versa. Because at the end of the day, it's definitely going to take a lot of work than just one organization or 2 organizations to get it done.
All power.
Yeah, all power. I got one more question, and it was about something that you mentioned, and maybe some clarification for the audience and for people that don't know. You said that the new African Black Panther Party is in the midst of looking for a headquarters, but for We Are Many has uh, not been on for a year. We've only been on for a few weeks now since, and some people may not know what happened to the former community center aka the headquarters at the time. So if you can you fill the audience in on what's going on with that?
Yes, we had a prior issue where a lot of the all the UPN members are aware of that it was, some issues going on with a previous member that's no longer a part of the new African Black Panther Party, and it just left a lot of things disarrayed, and we're trying to sort them out right now. But since we're in a rebuilding phase and basically trying to start anew and grow in a positive direction, we just really feel like that it's time for something new, something different, something bigger, something better, so we could better serve the community.
Yeah, and the community center, wasn't that an issue with the city?
Yes. To a small degree, yes, it was an issue with the city, but it stemmed from one of our ex members. And that's where it's at right now. It was a situation that took place with an ex member that's no longer with us, and it just got out of control. And there was some damage done, and we're in the process of rebounding from that right now. And yeah, that's really it right now. So yeah, but pretty soon in the near future, we will have our brick and mortar home base, and we'll be able to do a lot more and be a lot more visible.
Have you? How you doing, brother? Have you
Full power.
thought have the organization thought about formulating a bus program to take people, families that can't afford to take the bus or the taxi or whatever the case may be, to put to jails to see their loved ones?
Yes, it's funny that you
Have
said
you
that.
thought about formulating that in the process, in time, not right now, but in time?
No, it's funny that you brought that up, Conrad. Yes, me and the chairman I actually spoke about that a couple of weeks ago. Probably about 2 weeks ago, we actually spoke about that, and yes, we did discuss it. That's something that's definitely on the table, and we would love to do it. Once again, it's going to take funding, finding a vehicle and things of that nature, a bus, and having someone that's able to drive it. But no, definitely, we would love to do that because once again, we are spawned out of the original Black Panther Party, and that is something that they themselves used to do. And we
Yeah,
know like that there's a lot of, and we would like to have other organizations either follow our lead or we follow their lead with things that is definitely going to be crucial and vital to forging better relationships, not only with the community, but within their family as well. Because we know that a lot of oppressed people don't have their mothers and their fathers or their aunts or their uncles or whoever is somewhat of a stable parental figure to them due to the incarceration system. So yes, we would definitely love to get that up and going. Do I have a projection of how long it will be? So once that's done, I don't have a idea on a time frame. But there's so many different things that we want to do and we're trying to do right now. And me myself, and I know the chairman as well. We're tackling everything one thing at a time, and we're throwing as much effort and energy into it as possible, and every resource that we have.
that's good. That's good. Go ahead, sister.
What's the new African Black Panther Party's perspective on the inherent revolutionary aspect of the lumpen experience for the lumpen proletariat specifically?
Can you repeat that question, please?
What's the new African Black Panther Party's perspective on
Mhm.
the issue of the radicalizing slash revolutionary the revolutionizing experience of the lumpen proletariat, basically?
Our perspective is we're all we're all working class people, and we believe that as working class people, we need to seize the means of production, and the only way of doing that is to first speak to the masses and make them aware of who and what they are. And we do believe that sometimes radical measures are needed, sometimes radical measures are taken. And the only way to achieve and take that foot of capitalism off the neck of the people is through revolution. You know what I mean? We have to take revolutionary tactics and go about things outside of the norm and think outside of the box. So that's our standpoint, and that's why we do and move the way that we move and believe in the things that we believe in, because we know that without us being the lumpen proletariat, there is no capitalism. You know what I mean? There's no exploitation of production. And that's one of the worstest fears of any person that supports capitalism is first awareness and being awoken and then proceeding with that action. We have a saying in the new African Black Panther Party, observation and participation. We've been sitting back long enough as the lumpen proletariat observing. So now it's time for action.
It's the best ways we learn. We observe action, we learn action, we engage in action. On top of that, you also have there's a lot of like Marxists that try and use Marx's very incorrect definition of the lumpen proletariat as a way to sabotage us. And a comment I'll just make on that is it kind of feels that like, because there's this whole thing of the lumpen proletariat are tools of fascism, but really it's because we're not being organized. We're the most desperate sector of the proletariat, and therefore the most almost too revolutionary. And everyone knows we're too revolutionary. The revisionists that want to abandon us, the comrades that want to organize us, and the fascists that want to use us. And if we're not organized by our comrades, we will be organized by the Nazis.
No, I agree with you 100%. And it's like, you have to be careful and aware of what well you drink from. You have to, and that's why when you are part of an organization or you have comrades, so to speak, it's good to know the stock of the people that you are aligning yourself with. And that come with spending time with them in person, doing political work or organizing work outside. Because I believe the more time that you spend with a person, and this is pertaining to anything, this is just not pertaining to doing revolutionary work. This is just even if you're getting to know a person, the more time that you spend with them, you will know if they're revisionist. You'll know if they're fascist. You'll know if they're counter-revolutionary. You will know and see these things, and you will be able better to choose and not aligning yourself with them, or using them for whatever purpose that they're good for.
Actually argue that a lot of lumpen people, lumpen proletarians specifically, have like a bit of a sensor for that. Like fascists recruit lumpen, they put more of the pseudo-socialist crap over their shit whenever they try and organize the lumpen. An example of that would be the SA with the Nazis. Some of the most like socialisty sounding crap that you'll ever hear from the Nazis was in the propaganda for the SA recruitment.
Yes, I agree. I read a lot of different things on Nazis and the Third Reich and things of that nature, and you're so accurate in that. And I think that's another reason why a lot of people at this day and time are a little hesitant into jumping into organizations or aligning themselves with any type of formative, vanguard, or they're just, or even when you come in and introduce yourself, they're a little standoffish because we as oppressed people have been let down so many times. We have been traded and crossed so many times. We've thrown so much back and behind so many different people, causes, and organizations, and come to find out all they had was self-gain in mind. So I think a lot of people are reserved in that sense in being protective of themselves because of the things that has happened in the past. You understand what I'm saying? So it's nothing wrong with that because that's just human nature. Who's going to allow themselves to keep being abused willfully? You know, and it's like it's just like you take for example, and it's just an example. You take a candidate for any type of office and you sit there and you listen to all their points, all their point of views, everything they're going to promise they're going to do for you. And then when they get into office, it's a completely different story. And we see that time and time again. And that goes to the same thing with the work that we do. We see so many different people that talk a good game, speak a good game, but at the same time, their actions is not measuring up to what they say, or their actions is not measuring up with what they say. So it's like, we really have to be careful, because it's easy for a person to get into this line of work or this lifestyle to easily be swayed into improper thoughts, because egos come into play. And I think that's one of the biggest things that destroys any type of movement or any type of organization of people. It's people egos. Because when you allow your ego to take advantage of you, you get a distorted view. You can write all the greatest documents in the world, but once again, it's a document that you wrote, so you know how to manipulate it. Just like how we said at the beginning, how would we rather better handle this conversation? Would it rather be a Q&A, or would it be something that's curated? You understand what I'm saying? So it's the same thing like with laws. Who better to manipulate the laws than the people that created them? Who's better to exclude people from the laws than the person that created them? So a person has to be very careful to not get inflamed with their ego, not get inflamed with self-gain. Don't allow power to go to your head, and you'll have a lot better result at the end.
I'll say that what we do and how we do it will eventually determine who we become. There's an old saying that in order to transform the world, I'm quite sure y'all heard from this Marx. In order to transform the world, you first have to transform yourself, and that comes to work, hard work. Because I'm gonna tell you, revolutionary work is not easy. It's hard. You're dealing with human beings with different concepts, different attitudes, different behaviors, and that's what we're dealing with. And we have to transform all that and make it the way not the way we want it, but the way it should be. And so well, we need to be very mindful when we get involved in various services in the community. We need to know what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, because eventually what we do, the product either may turn out bad or may turn out good, but if we do the right job and the right way with a good attitude, we definitely will be successful.
Let me get a little biblical for a second. I hope I don't offend no one. Let me get a little biblical. There's a saying, and it's very true, because it's in the Bible. Hello? Yeah, it's in the Bible as well. It says when you go to take any spiritual office, whether a bishop or pastor or evangelist, you're taking a heavy office, and much that is given, much is expected and asked. And when it comes to dealing with a person's soul, if you mislead or misguide them, that blood is on your hands, not theirs, because they're ignorant and don't know. And it's the same thing with doing revolutionary work, or calling yourself a revolutionary, or being a part of a revolutionary vanguard organization. We're taking people's lives into our hand. When you say vanguard, that means you are leading. You are a leader. All the way from the chairman, all the way down to the last comrade. You are a leader of these people. They're looking up to you to give them the tools that is needed. When you say you're teaching and you're training, you are a teacher. You're being followed. You understand what I'm saying? So if you lead them in the wrong way, whether it's up like Comrade Shay said, if it's up because you didn't do the self-work yourself to get yourself in the proper place to lead, that's on your hands. But not only the responsibility fall on you, but at the same time, you're hurting the people that is following you. And I think that's something that a lot of these so-called revolutionaries and people that's in these organizations have to keep in mind. Think first about the people, and if you was following someone, how you would want to be trained and taught and led.
Same.
What's
Yeah,
on
I had a question. I don't know if this is something to talk about, but the question in regards to like the lumping and people being in prison. You know, from my experience, I've done time. I did 11 years in the penitentiary, and
Welcome
something
home.
that
All
I
power.
appreciate it. I've been out 10 years, so
All power.
so yeah, all power. So something that
never
I
too late to
feel,
go welcome buddy.
something that I realize with looking from how people are on the inside and how people are on the outside, is that on the outside, sometimes it's easier to hide from people and be very individualist. Where on the inside in prison, you're forced to be around people. From anything from eating with people that you may not know, you may not like, or you may not get along with, or you be taking showers with a person, you live in a cell with a person, and you got the COs, you got all these different personalities, and you learn how to deal with it. And I think that that's something that I think is often ignored when it comes to those getting out of the penitentiary, how well that a lot of us have the ability to deal with people because of that. So I don't know if anybody else, agrees with some of that, but that's something that I do think that needs to be really highlighted with, especially when you have revolutionaries and, for lack of a better terminology, junior George Jackson's coming home, So
That crosses over into homelessness. Homelessness has the same thing, where like because you can't be a lone wolf on the streets. Anyone who tells you, "Oh, I'm a lone wolf on the streets," they had mates, they had funds, they were probably a drug dealer if they're surviving on their own on the streets. Because when you're a lumpen prole, like an actual lumpen prole, you are not just getting by easy on your own. You're probably gonna die on your own. But it just 3 man changes everything. I think we were in a posse of 5, usually 7 altogether when we were battling about, and we made sure we had everything for each other. We all slept together at the same night shelters. We all made sure that we had food to eat. We all shared tobacco with each other, and when we all ran out, we all went docker picking together to find nub ends to make sure we had tobacco until we could get enough money to buy more, and then it was handing each other out tobacco again, weed, everything. You had to provide for each other. And obviously, there's the conflictions that occur. Posses can get into just as many fights as gangs. I think people have this like unique idea that gangs are just like shooting each other in the street all the time, and it's like they got like businesses to run. I don't know how gangs operate like, but posses can get in a lot of into fight each other because like it can be anything to turf fighting to like y'all just don't like each other, and there's more of an instinctualness to be more bearish and over brandful, and you've also got to be, I mean, there's like 2 ways of surviving on the street. You can't avoid stoicism, and technically both of these are 2 types of it, but you have like your regular run-of-the-mill stoicism, which is what I say is for surviving. Then you have machismo, which is for thriving. And what I mean by thriving is I mean becoming more powerful, oppressing other people. And those are the 2 things you find in the streets and the 2 things you find in the prisons. You get the machismo a lot. They're just trying to overpower everyone around them, trying to be the biggest man possible. And the stoics, which are people that are just trying to survive, trying to keep a defensive exterior, look like someone who can handle themselves, but trying to avoid as much trouble as possible and get through and surviving. And those are the 2 survival mechanisms of the streets, and they kind of interweave with each other. But yeah,
Uh,
it's a very
uh,
radicalizing experience.
if I may say so, I agree with both the comrades, and I could identify with Comrade Rob. I myself been home a little over 2 years, and I did 13 years, and that was my second incarceration stint. Um, but I do agree with how Rob said that because I knew a lot of brothers that I call comrades that are still in there, regardless if they was doing revolutionary work or they was robbing the man up the street. We call each other comrades and brothers because we know that we are the opposition to the power structure. We have to unify with each other to survive and live because of the conditions and the design of the penal system. You know, if you go into the penal system, which most people often do, basically what Storm was saying, as far as, you know, contributed to being homeless, when you go into the penal system, all of us, they had that saying, I know you're pretty familiar with it, Rob. I came in here by myself. I'm leaving by myself. You know, but when you come in, you don't leave out that way. Because when you see the hardship and the conditions of the penal system and you experiencing them, you're gonna learn, you're gonna align yourself with your people. And the people are the other prisoners. You're gonna align yourself and do hunger strikes. You're going to write ombudsmans. You're going to write letters to the warden. You're going to make phone calls to your family to try to do what they can do on the outside if you do have family. Excuse me. Even as simple as with your cellmate. You know, y'all going to make sure both y'all going to align yourselves with each other. Even if you don't like each other, you still have to protect one another because y'all live in the same domicile with each other. You're not going to let nobody come in your room and steal out your room. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like there are so many different things in place that bring us together, and it trickles out to out here, like you said, Rob. And there's another saying that people used to say, it only take one grain of sand to move the world. But I used to tell people when they used to tell me that, you get one grain of sand and tell me what it looked like. You can't grab just one grain of sand. So even though you may say it only take one grain of sand to move the world, it's 100 or thousands or even millions other grains that's moving with that one grain to make the shift. So it's the same principle. It's the same analogy. You know what I mean? For you to have any kind of progress, you're not going to be able to do anything by yourself.
A leap in quality requires a leap in quantity. But I can link this with homelessness as well. When you go and you don't come out the same. I mean, from anything from working together with your brethren to try and get yourself on the housing register to starving on the streets and being blanked by everyone as if you don't exist, watching the world function as if you're not there while you actually are there. Like, you become drawn out and dragged out of the world. The people you thought you were in common with, well, it's come to show that these middle class tossers always hated the shit out of you. Now, growing up poor already does that, but going into homelessness and hitting the lumpen, it solidifies it in stone. And it just, I mean, I was already a communist when I hit the streets, but I was a much proper communist when I came off the streets, and it turned me into very virulent with my revolutionary tendencies to a point that I just have no I have no give on these things. Like, it roused me up to a wild extent, and I've seen that with a lot of brethren that have come out of prisons, whether they hit the streets after prison or whether they even got a home out of prison. There's something that prison and homelessness does to people that just wires them up into either a Marxist or a fascist, or well, a communist, an anarchist, or a Marxist, or a fascist on the other side. Because, like, you're either going right or left, buddy. You ain't coming out of prison a liberal, bar the exception.
I think, personally speaking, I think that's one thing that the power structure got right with the design of prison through their greed is throwing us all in together. And speaking of the prison aspect, and even speaking about, you know, urban community areas, throwing us all in together because of greed. You know, because if you think about it, Rob, Che, and Storm, all of us had some type of form where we was in an incarcerated state. If you think about the history of jails and prisons in the penal system, used to have single cells everywhere. But because they started getting greedy and more and making, you know, living so hard, you had more and more people coming to prison. And now they're starting to put 2 in the cell. I even been in the county where there's 3 people in the cell, 3 bunk beds on top of each other. You know what I'm saying? Then you start coming up with dormitories. they didn't realize what they were doing. They thought they was making more money, but they don't realize that they was taking someone that was in complete solitude and forcing them to interact with people. Because I've seen so many people come through those doors that were so standoffish, so to themselves, and within some time, they were, if not completely fluid and interacting with everyone, but to a degree, aligning themselves with other people. And now, like you said, Rob, when you come out here, you're able to get up and speak in front of people. You're able to command a room and attention. You're able to work with other groups of people because you see the need or the lack thereof for the work that you have to do to get the outcome that you need and want. You understand what I'm saying? So at the end, it's one of the upsides that the system gave us as people that's been behind those walls is their greed. Their greed been their downfall.
You know, I was 14 when I went to prison, and I did 15 years. I went in all New York State prisons. I was in all of them because they can't continuously transfer me from one jail from one prison to another. When you become involved and you start struggling in prison, the pigs sort of like have more. You're more noticeable to them. So they're always attempting to grab you and put you in interrogation. And I mean, when I became chairman of the Young Laws Party at Attica, I knew the responsibility I was holding, and that one of the responsibility was that I was going to go and get thrown in interrogation, getting beat up, gassed, watered down, all that stuff. But that's part of me being a revolutionary. I had to do that, But we need to understand that in the streets and prisons, there's no difference. The only thing is
Amen.
that
All power.
one has bars, and the other one doesn't have bars, but has bars right up here in your
One
minds.
has bars, the other has
All,
rags.
Yeah, exactly.
all power. All power. All power.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wanted to comment something about this real quick, and I know we have questions in the chat that we could get to that are for you. But real quick, I want to tie all this together, um, because everybody's hitting on these points, and there's terminologies that Marxists like to use, and it's called like contradictions, right? Like these are the things that we're facing, and once we get kind of put into a bubble, contradictions intensify. And there was, I'm gonna give an example of what that means and how you can see it on both ends of the spectrum. Someone named Benny Lee. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Benny Lee, but he was a vice lord from Chicago. Now he gives big speeches. So if you go on YouTube, you can see there was a speech he gave. I believe in DuPage College. He was giving a speech to students, and he was kind of breaking down the historical development of how the prison pipeline and how things started with the black belt. And for those who don't know what the black belt is in Chicago, it was basically a barrier that was created around the black community and kept them basically in a what is it called, the air prison, what do they call Palestine, like open air prison. It's almost
Yeah.
like an open air prison where like you were just describing about what used to be single cells now became double cells, where now the contradictions of trying to keep the black community confined, they would actually start to go up. And so they didn't want them to leave out of the community, they built two flats, and then they built project buildings where they go up so they don't go out. And so the contradictions and the resources that were lacking within the community because they couldn't basically go nowhere caused more and more tensions. Now what he did from there is kind of show an example of that, what it would look like in prison, right? You throw a bunch of people in a cell block, right? Let's say 100, 200 people in a cell block. You give them one TV and one remote.
Chaos.
What happens?
Complete
Chaos.
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 Exactly, and that's what causes contradictions, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
That's
everyone wants to watch a different channel. So then, how do you resolve that? And these are the things that people who are put in prisons get this benefit. They get this advantage over everyone else because they see the contradictions at a heightened position, where people that are on these are more liberal are they get a bunch of TVs, they don't see that problem. They get a bunch of remotes. They don't see that problem because they're living in the gated communities over here, and they have, you know, the privileges that other people don't. So when we talk about those contradictions, that's one huge way of trying to see what it looks like, you know, in the prison system. But are we? Is someone gonna bring up the questions in the chat?
I can
I
bring
don't
it
know how
up.
to do that.
Before we
How
go
would
to the questions in the chat, if possible, I would just like to touch on something that both of y'all were
okay?
saying, Che and Rob. I want to start with Che. When you were saying about doing revolutionary work, you know, and things of that nature, and how you was willing to sacrifice yourself, going into segregation, being gassed and hit with the water. I think what people need to think too and keep in mind, if you're not willing to struggle and sacrifice yourself with and for the people, let alone die for the people, how can you live with the people? That's my first point. My second point was to Rob and what he was saying. Um, I want people to take the perspective of when you say project, you know, housing project, keyword project. Same thing with when they was doing redlining all through the United States, redlining areas to keep minorities or blacks in one area. You know, we as oppressed people and minorities in the world are projects. We are theories. You know, they're getting data based off of us. You know what I mean? Just like you said, when you throw people into a project, it was a project because they didn't know it was going to work. You know what I'm saying? What better way to have control over police, watch, harass, and keep things so-called self-contained than throwing it all into one area? And it worked to a degree because now when people start to realize and see, they starting to rise above it. But you still have something that's behind, that's still in the projects. And now look at what they're doing with projects now. They didn't tore down the high rises and now they turn them into so-called formidable living environments. You know what I mean? Where they're only 2 floors, or they look like they try to make them look like gated communities. But all they're doing is playing tricks with your mind. Because the same people that was in them high rises is the same people that's in those new buildings. And some people from other areas. So nothing has changed. They're just trying to change the aesthetics to your eye to make your mind think that I'm doing better, that I'm not in the projects, that I'm not oppressed no more, that drugs is not an issue in my community, that my school system has changed, that my child is safe. And it's not the same thing at all. I mean, it's not a change at all. It's the same thing. It just looks different. You know what I mean? Because if you think about it, the oppressors' tactics never change. Just what they look like to us and how they enact them. But it's the same tactic because they wanted to have the same outcome.
You can see that with the way that the projectization of the trans community goes the opposite direction, which is that it's making us feel less safe, and it's trying to like destroy every aspect of anything that ever did make us feel safe. Same with like how the right did all that like 1776 project and other stuff like that to destroy Black history. Like they're knocking down all of those projects to rebuild new projects, and the new projects they're building are fucking vile. You know, the old ones look nice but were horrible. Now it's looks horrible, is horrible, will be horrible with what they're going to be cooking up next. Question from the chat from Lav Visiolanta was how would you suggest people on the outside help the incarcerated?
I think first the main thing is still look at people incarcerated as human and don't treat them as if they're animalistic and barbaric. because we do that to ourselves in there to survive. You know, from the way that we have to live with another person that we don't know in a tight confine, to sharing showers, to the meals that we prepare with the food from commissary, to the food that we eat. You understand what I'm saying? That's provided by the prisons, to the recreation that we get and going outside and being trapped behind all this barbed wire and walls. I think that's one of the first things is to help humanize people that's incarcerated, whether if that's you reaching out through letter, phone call, even if you don't know the person. You understand what I'm saying? Just like how a lot of people go on incarcerated people websites to look for companionship, you could just be a pen pal, because there's a lot of people in there that don't have family, or has been incarcerated so long they lost their family, or they burnt bridges when they was out. You know, everything doesn't have to be financial or monetary. I think a lot of the stuff. I think the best way is to help a person um, psychologically, because that's what they take from you when you go in there. When you go in these persons for any period of time, they try to take your mind, they try to take your spirit, and they try to take your heart and your humanity, because they already took your body. So what else is left? And that's what I was telling a comrade of mine the other day on Facebook. Me and this man did at least 12 years together, in and out of 2 different prisons. And I told him, I said, when we come out here, first of all, they don't prepare us, and we come out here feeling like we've forgotten about. You know what I mean? And in a sense, it's kind of like, we've been deployed into war. Because if you be in any of the worst prisons in the United States or in your city, it's a war to survive. You don't know what you're going to encounter when you walk out that cell door, or you go on that cell block, or you go on that compound, or you go to that mess hall. You don't know what you're going to encounter. You could be the wrong place at the wrong time. You could have did something to somebody 5 years ago, and the person's still holding a grudge, and they see you in the hallway and want to do something to you. So you don't know what you encounter. So it's a war every day. But when we come home, there's no welcome home. There's no, here's a job, or here's, here's resources to help you with your mental health, because we know that psychologically you're not right. You know what I mean? Or you can be compromised psychologically, which a lot of people are. So I think the first thing we have to do is really check on the mental state and the well-being of people that are still incarcerated, to try to take them out of a dehumanizing state and put them more into a humanizing state. And for those that's coming home, give them an opportunity, give them a chance, hear their story of what they've been through. Because like I told someone also a couple of weeks ago, whether you're guilty of your crime or not, you understand what I'm saying, and you're incarcerated in prison, you are a victim too. You are a victim of oppression. You are a victim of the penal system. You're a victim of the state, because you have no freedom. You understand what I'm saying? It says you are awarded to the state on your judgment of conviction. So you have no control over your own destiny. You're powerless. Yes, Conrad, Check.
Yeah, I just want to say, not only are you a victim, but you become a slave.
All power.
And you become a slave, and not only that, you are stripped totally, completely of all your rights as a human being. You're no longer seen as a human being. If your name is John, they call, hey you. That's what they call you. Or else they give you a number and you got to respond to that number. That's your name. But you don't have no name, no humanity, no respect, no nothing. All that is stripped, is totally taken away from you. So you don't have prisoners, man. Wow, prisoners are live inhumane conditions. Inhumane conditions. It's like being a slave. We talk about slavery, what it used to be. No, slavery still is. All you gotta do is go to prison and see it for yourself.
It's sad. It's sad because like, and I'm glad that Comrade Shay touched on that. When you in prison, you fight for the smallest the smallest fragment of one, individuality, and two, personality. And how we used to separate ourselves out here in Jersey, especially for people that had a certain amount of time and still had some time to go. There was a difference between an inmate and a prisoner. An inmate was the shoe shuffling, ass kissing, snitching individual, and the prisoner was the person that was going to organize the people, be with the people, and tell a pig who he was to his face and don't care about going to the box. You understand what I'm saying? A prisoner was a person that didn't want to be here and gripes with that every day. But an inmate is a person that's the one that you see all out on the chair after everybody locked in and laughing and joking. That was an inmate. You see how we got to sit there and fight for the smallest sense of personality. And while we in there, we're fighting in there, but we fight when we come out too. You know what I'm saying? So our fight never ends. You know what I mean? And the slavery, in the sense, like Shay was saying, never end either. Because I'm pretty sure, just like myself being out 2 years, Rob, you being out 10 years, and I forgot, Conrad Shay, how long you said you've been out. But there's so many.
More than 30-something years. More than 30-something years.
All power, all power. You still have flashbacks of the things that you encounter and experience in there. And some things out here gives you that resemblance. So, you know, me being out 2 years, I'm still trying to break those chains and forget some of those things. I still remember my SBI number. I don't know about any of y'all. Do y'all remember y'all numbers? But I still remember my number. And one person
1765
885-363C. So it's like, you know, a person told me when I was in the county getting ready to go down to prison, they told me, you're going to learn that number better than you know your social security number. And if that's not slave of your mind and your spirit, then what else is?
That's it. On the talks that Rob was going into regarding contradictions, their alignment, how they go on down, it's very much the same thing with the streets. Like, what, you're starving on the streets, you got nothing, no one even wants to acknowledge you exist. You have that weird effect where even if people want to give you something, they won't do it until they see someone else do it, and because they see everyone else not doing it, they'll just pass you by, so you don't exist. You got to fight for your food, you got to fight for your smoke, your housing, your everything, and you're on the streets and everything's against you. And that shit just becomes this whole educational thing. And this is why, like, it's a great point that Che made. There was actually the initial spark for this, but then Rob went and advanced it further with his TV analogy. Beautiful. And that's that the hard work is what turns someone into a revolutionary. Well, that's why in the modern day, all the best revolutionaries I meet personally and come across come from the lumpen proletariat, be it modern folk like the folk that I have right here in front of me, from fucking Che to Rob to, you know, all else. And Che as well is one of the old school that also goes back with folk them like Tom Watts and stuff like that, who was also from the lumpen proletariat. We are hardened in our upbringings and disciplined by our environments. And that discipline is quite radical and can be very revolutionary if it's sharpened into a sword. Problem is a lot of our class is too busy wielding it around like a sledgehammer because of machismo, because of petty bourgeois ideology and individualism and people trying to get around that. And you gotta have privilege to have access to all that. I think a lot of people think when they think of lumpen proles, they think they're all like individualistic, like drug maestros that also live on the streets and collect church change from people. And it's like those two things could not be the same. But it's that, like, that street existence, it hardens you, and you're either gonna snap into a piece of shit or you're gonna break your way into being a decent comrade.
Yeah, I wanted to add something. We could talk about this forever. This topic has a lot of deep things and depth into it. So I wanted to say something too, that when it comes to when the conversation of the quote unquote lumpen proletariat, a lot of times some people like to ostracize the lumpen from the proletariat itself because of thinking that we're away from the means of production, where When we become slaved in the prison system, we become the means of production. And most prisons nowadays have industries in the prisons where they're doing work for nothing, for pennies, or doing work inside the prison and producing a huge surplus. And that goes from, I know in Illinois where I was locked up, from furniture to bakery goods to eyeglasses to tobacco, anything you could think of. And this is literally where a lot of industries went to. The
I
cheaper
mean,
the labor, the more the profit. Right now, this day, I have to point this out. Right now, this day, I'm a truck driver now. Like I said, I haul what's called um, roof trusses and floor trusses. These are what the wood that's used to build the new homes for all the rich people moving out to the nice parts of Chicago out to Indiana right now. And they use automation right now. They got computers like cutting this stuff out, doing a big gist of the work. So we have automation pushing people out of work, right? At the same time, the biggest competition this company that I work for now is the prisoners that are making trusts on the inside for pennies. They are competing with each other. The prison versus the automation. That's the contradictions of capitalism, like right there, cut and dry.
well, I mean, it's like basically people use the lumpen as like this whole encompassing term, but then they also use lumpen proletariat for it. And then they kind of ignore the fact that a disenfranchised part of society would have its own class structure. Because in the homeless case of it, I mean, to be honest, let's be real, unemployed and homeless is a relationship to the means of production. I don't know what the fuck Marx was smoking when he said D class. He can shove that one up his ass. And people saying it was of his time. Fuck off. On top of that, what's it? Us in the lumpen proletariat on the underclass rather than those that are to the side of society, like lumpen exploiters tend to be. We are either in the prisons working for the legal businesses, as you say, and then there's also on the outside with the most exploitable people. So big gangs, illegal businesses, drug trafficking and racketeering, fucking sex trafficking. We are the biggest targets of, and we are the product in a lot of these cases, like sex trafficking and prostitution. I mean, as a trans woman who's in the lumpen proletariat, I'm like exotic produce, so I'm very up for being kidnapped and trafficked myself in that regard.
Just
Yeah,
to
no,
touch
it's
on
true.
what Storm was saying, and also you, Rob, 2 points real quick. I was in Bayside prison. It sounds like Jersey is like either behind the times or they just segue out of certain things because years ago, there was a lot more industry in the prison system than it is now in Jersey. There's still a lot of industry in the prison system, but they try to make it seem like it's more for the prisons than outside the prisons. You know what I mean? As far as like the bakery goes, like the bread and stuff that all the prisons make is to be distributed throughout the prisons and stuff. But you still do have jobs that's out there. Well, they call them jobs in prison. They still have trades in there that or skills that they have you do that goes outside the walls. And one of them that I was doing was, believe it or not, making license plates for the state of New
Ooh,
Jersey. And
really?
yeah,
They used to
we
do that
still
at Auburn Prison. We used to make license plates too.
and
Really? Wow.
when I told people that that was my job detail, they was like, hell no. They really make license plates in prison. I said, yeah, just like you saw in Malcolm X, that shit is real. We really made license plates and we was getting to start, you was getting 28 cents. What was it, 28 cents hour or 28 cents a day or something like that. And then you moved up to 48 cents, 58 cents. And it's just really sad and that something like license plates that's going to the state, it's going to the DMV, like it's going straight for the state, and you sitting here paying us 28 cents a day or hour. You understand what I'm saying? Making $30 a month or $31, and you look at the capitalism inside the prison, right? You make $31 a month on the most menial job detail in Jersey, but then they got to take their 33% of it out for so-called fines and restitution. So you're looking at probably $27 a month. And then you look at the inflation of the commissary items, you're not able to survive in there off of 20-something dollars a month. And then to touch on what Storm was saying about, the illegal trades on the outside, you take a person that get incarcerated and you break them down into a graph, a circle graph of how many people is gonna profit off this one individual being incarcerated and released. You just got from the time the person get incarcerated, right, when they get locked up, you got the police that locked them up getting paid. He goes to the county, you got the county officers and sheriffs getting paid. Then you think about it, if he get a lawyer or public defender, they're getting paid. The judge is getting paid. The prosecutor is getting paid. Then when he gets sentenced, he goes to prison. The prison is getting paid. Then when he works in the prison system, whatever industry he's in, they're getting paid. Then when it gets time for, if, say for instance, you want to go up and do a reconsideration of your sentence. Now, lawyers getting paid again. The judge is getting paid again. The prosecutor is getting paid again. Then when you get ready to come home on parole officers getting paid. If they putting you in a community release program, they're getting paid. If you go into a halfway house, everybody in there is getting paid. You understand what I'm saying? So look how many people off of one person's life is financially gaining. Then don't sit there and say you violate parole. Worst case scenario. You understand what I'm saying? Look who you go through the whole cycle again. You understand what I'm saying? So it's really sad that how much we're broken into as human beings being a part of the penal system. How many fractions we're broken into. Does that even mathematically make sense? Is that many parts in the fraction? Is it? But we're definitely reduced to the lowest common denominator.
There's also the way that lumpen bourgeois people enslave us as well. Like, you owe man them a debt, and next thing you know, you could find yourself on a marijuana plantation in the middle of fucking New Mexico. Like, but there are a few questions in the chat. 3. Question number 1 is, would getting political revolutionary materials be good for liberating the minds of those trapped inside?
Very much so, but it's going to be very hard and difficult because I know in the New Jersey prisons, your choice of reading selections or what you're able to get in through correspondence is really slim. I remember even because like I said, I've been home 2 years. I wanted to get books on heating and ventilation and cooling. I wanted to get books on plumbing to try to teach myself some type of trades. You understand? Even down to tattooing books and drawing books and stuff. There's a lot of different things you can't have. And it's crazy because if you would have saw my library that I had in prison, they would have confiscated a lot of the stuff I had. I had Seize the Time in there. I had Revolutionary Suicide in there. I had Asada in there because a lot of people in the mailroom was dumb to what these books was. And I used to order so many books at a time. I would order like 20 books at a time. I would spend $150 a month on books. And I used to order from this place called, I think it was E.J. Hamilton or something I used to order from or whatever. And, there's certain ways you have to go about it. And it's sad for you to try to have some type of liberation from your oppression. You have to probably resort to seedy means to get it. You understand what I'm saying? But I think the best way is if you have a person like one of us that's able to go into the prison system and talk to you, and then you can retain the information, and then you yourself can write it down, or even just through text and code language. But no, it would definitely be worth it. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these prisons, even the COs are corrupt. Even the warden is corrupt. I've been in prisons in New Jersey where I haven't seen so many so-called people that's supposed to help correct us on the wrong side of the law that are well-known high-ranking gang members, but they're correction officers. You know what I mean?
Go ahead.
Oh, go on.
I was just gonna say, as someone who is like very big on theory conceptualization, I love it to bits, and I think it's an important thing that has to be in every space. And so, just as I think this shit should be on the streets, I think one of the best solutions is we need theorists inside prisons, actually creating theory from experience, crafting that shit. So there's written stuff inside prisons that can circulate like mad within those prisons.
Yeah, very,
Just
very
like those
much.
same the big voices for prison riots and food hunger strikes and shit like that, ramping up stuff that already happens organically in a more rational way.
Very much so. I think it comes down to the individuals that's incarcerated. I think that, it has to start with the individuals that's there. They have to want it. They have to seek it. Because, out of oppression, we have the platforms that we have. It may not have been necessarily taught to us, but through our oppression, we learned it, that this is not right. You understand what I'm saying? Look at, the founder members of my party, Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale. It wasn't taught to them. They learned it on their own. That,
Yeah.
the 10-point program and, the powers that be in the power structure, they sought the information out and then they started to formulate in their minds. You understand what I'm saying? So I think, they have to step away from the normal ideals and comfortabilities that a lot of people that's in prison um cling to, just to cope with the everyday of being incarcerated. Because if they really wanted to, they could stop drugs from coming into the prison. They could stop contraband from coming into the prison if they really wanted to. But they're profiting from it on a smaller level, and it's also like a pacification tactic to keep the animals in line to a certain degree and keep turning on each other instead of them. You understand what I'm
Well,
saying? Because if you see a person that have a cell phone and you don't have one, what are you going to do? You're going to try to attack that person for that cell phone. Or if you have a drug habit and can't afford to get drugs, what are you going to do? You're going to try to rob the next person. So it keeps the chaos contained and it keeps you disillusioned and on that wheel turning that, okay, they have their drugs, they have their phones, they have this. Let's just contain it. Like a project, let's contain it. So that way they're happy trails hunting with each other and they're not thinking about liberating themselves and raising up against us.
I've actually seen. Sorry, I know someone who was on the inside, and he told me about an experience he had. It's funny. This guy actually robbed me at knife point at one point, right? But beef aside, he fucking what's it? He was in prison, and I sparked up the conversation about this because one of the things in prison is that the lumpen bourgeoisie are one of the biggest reasons why a lot of this shit goes down. The police instantly find the most exploitative people in the prisons, and they make deals with them. Prison peace is kept by those groups through the gangster they run on the deal that they'll get the drugs they want to sell in there and all the other stuff. I mean, the police are going to pump that shit into there anyway, but they want to get people right under their ear. So they have people that can get in the way, actual organizing and actual standing up. And it, for now, works as a barrier because that rational organization hasn't taken to its full brevity. With communist organizing being driven through the prisons, the step forward is to overwhelm and overthrow the relationship that the lumpen bourgeois has with the police system and start to basically suppress their ability to control us through drugs, to control us through our ills and our losses.
Yes, I agree 100%. I think if things like Rob was saying, when he made the comment about the TVs, I think if you made things more accessible and didn't make things so, where you had to contend for everything, it would make things a lot better. You understand what I'm saying? Where if, for instance, when one of the prisons I was in, you have 40 people come out on a tier at a time for passive rec, but it's only 6 phones to use and only maybe 2 or 3 of them work. What do you think going to happen? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's
Everybody
fair.
wants to call their family. And then you made it worse when you approved putting cell phone numbers on the pin list to call. You understand what I'm saying? Now everybody got access or want access to the phone. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like it really starts from the hierarchy of the penal system and it trickles down. You understand what I'm saying? Because this is not just a run of the mill system. This was something that was strategically thought out and planned. And for us to combat it, we have to just as much, if not more, strategically plan. And we have to step outside of the ills, like you said, of wanting to smoke K2, wanting to smoke weed, wanting to sniff dope, wanting to snort coke, smoke crack, or do whatever that is accessible or available to a degree, and step outside that and sit there and say, you know what? I want my identity back. I want my humanity back. I want my personality back. You may have me confined physically, but I'm not going to let you confine me mentally or emotionally. I'm not going to let you break me. I'm not going to be institutionalized. I do have a date to go home sometime, and I don't want to be stuck in this mental or emotional rut that you're trying to put me in. But see, these are the tools and the tactics that they use because it causes you to be a cannibal. It causes you, I mean, not a cannibal. It causes you to be barbaric in a sense. You understand what I'm saying? And it causes you to be inhumane and animalistic to where you feel like you have to contend and fight for everything. I was in another prison where you only get 5 minutes in the mess hall to eat. You understand what I'm saying? Like this food was shitty. Don't get me wrong, but who could really sit down and eat a meal in 5 minutes?
It's
You
harder
understand
to
what I'm
eat
saying?
shit food takes longer to eat because you gotta fucking like hold your gut and hope you don't fucking vomit and shot yourself at the same.
So it's really bad the things that they do. Like, and then one of the other prisons I was in, it was like 12 officers. They went from the prison I was in and went to the female prison, and 12 of them got incarcerated for doing things to the females, sexually, mentally, emotionally, and contraband wise. So it's like, you have to really sit there and pick your battles and see what side of the fence that you want to be on. Yes, Archie.
You know, listening to you, make me recall, man, where Spanish people, Spanish families, if they didn't speak English, they were not allowed in the prison in Attica.
Oh wow.
You
Oh
had to
wow.
speak English.
Oh wow.
So a lot of families would turn away because they spoke Spanish and they didn't speak English. I used to fight against that. And
As
I
you
was
should.
always constantly segregation because of that. And I used to try to get in contact with families and all that that they could rebel in the streets, and some of them did. You know, and that and another thing about Spanish, if you got a letter from your wife and it was in Spanish, they rip it up, throw it in the garbage because it's not English. They're not kicking their ass. Your wife is your wife is writing you a letter and now in English. Now let me tell you about the English piece. In English, if your wife wrote you a letter or your girlfriend wrote you a letter and say, "Oh, honey, I would love to have you here right now to hold you in my arms," and that's ripped up automatically. They give you half a letter. Half literally, they'll give you half a letter. That piece is ripped off. So I'm gonna tell you, I mean, I hear, other prisons how they have different conditions, man. But in Attica, the condition was horrible, man. It was really, 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 really horrible. Toilet. You know what it is to have a toilet paper for 1 month. You have to wait a month before you get another toilet paper. That
Oh
was
wow.
horrible, man.
Well, there was times when I was in segregation and we didn't get toilet paper like that, and we couldn't order from commissary. There were times I had to use newspaper and socks. I'm not even gonna lie to you. You understand what I'm saying? And then back to the time when you were saying how they ripped the letters. That was another antagonizing tactic that SOG, Special Operations Group or some shit. They was like all black with the dogs and stuff, and they would come and trash the tears and stuff. They would rip up people's family pictures. You know what I mean? They would throw my dirty laundry with somebody a couple cells down mixed with their dirty laundry. You understand what I'm saying? Like these are different things that further, let you know that you don't count and you don't matter. You're just a dollar sign. Yes.
Where I'm at, they call them the Orange Crush, and they would be dressed in orange. So what I think that does, and this is why I want to highlight a bigger point after that. I think that what that does is it tries to create the illusion that there's more of them and they're more powerful than that of all those on the inside. And if you've ever been on the inside, you actually count and you look and you see there's always going to be more of the convicts on the inside than there is the COs. And something I want to highlight, and I'm gonna get right back into it. There's a class component here that is gonna be super important for those on the inside to realize. And that's one, that everybody that's in there with you wearing the whatever if you're wearing the blues or you're wearing orange or whatever you're in, those are the same people as you. You're the same. Once you get that, you realize that, dang, there's actually that's when you realize that there's more of us than there's them. But you go in there with the mentality of that, what you said in the beginning. um I came in by myself, I left by myself. I remember that because that gets said a lot when people on the inside are angry and they just get really individualistic. But when you look at it from a perspective of class, then you not only realize that there's more of you on the inside, there's also more of you on the outside. And that
Mm-hmm.
same thing where I was talking about with the us building the trusses out here, and the competition is those on the inside. A person without class consciousness would think that the those in the prison are the enemies. The ones on the inside are trying to take their jobs, and they're the enemies. They're the ones in Mexico and China are the enemies because they're taking the jobs when it's really the capitalists, it's the bourgeoisie, it's the warden, the administration, the few that are actually facilitating these things and exploiting all of us. But if we had band together in solidarity, that this is also my comrade, these are my brothers, these are the people, we're all being exploited together, then it changes the dynamic. When I went to prison, I got sentenced when I was like 18 or 19 when I first went in. They just got done having a 30-day lockdown. And I'm like, what happened? There was like a fight and a correctional officer got hurt or something like that. But the rest of the time that I was in this specific penitentiary, there was never another 30-day lockdown. Not because there wasn't any more fights or any COs that got hurt or anything like that, because I watched a CO get his teeth knocked out, right? We went on lockdown for 2 days. And what happens is when we go on lockdown, if you're on a level 1 lockdown, which is the more extreme lockdown, is that no inmate is allowed out of their cell, period. So therefore, who's going to cook the food? Who's going to do this and do all this stuff around the prison? The COs, the
They're
teachers,
losing money.
anybody
They're
who works
losing
in
money. Yeah.
administration. And then so they hate that. They're like, no, man, I can't. I don't get paid enough to do all this. I don't get paid to do all this. So it causes conflict, contradictions. So therefore, they stopped even putting us on lockdown because they needed the inmates to work, to cut the grass, to do everything within in there. And what that does, if you could look at it, is that they don't run shit. The inmates run their own prison. They run their own the institution that's keeping them confined. They run it. And it's the same thing when you see that on the world, right? When we were going on lockdown for COVID, they were going crazy. They didn't care how many people died because you got to get back to work because it was the workers that ran everything. And without us, then
There's
they
no
don't got
them.
shit.
No, I agree
Exactly.
with you 100%. But what Jersey got slick is when we had lockdowns, they would only let out, I guess what you would say, essential workers. Like the people that worked in the kitchen, the people that, not commissary, because that's like a privilege. But, definitely like, the hospital porters, and stuff like that. Things that really kept the facility running. Those were the only people that was able to go out on a lockdown. You understand what I'm saying? So they
That
got
was
they
the
got
level two. That's what they did. They did
they
that
got
for us. Level two. No more ones.
so they got slick and they got hip, because in Jersey is just a lockdown. We don't have different levels of lockdowns. And to touch on both of what you and Shay was saying, um, it reminds you, if you really think about it, it shows you anytime anything happens in the prison that's serious and sincere, they have to go outside the walls for reinforcement. Like if you look at the uprising in the 60s and 70s in Attica, Che, if you look at it and you sit there and you see they had to get the state police. They had to get all these different, they had to bring in the National Guards and stuff. So that shows you right there where the power relies. It's just up to the people that's in there if they're going to utilize that power, or if they're going to sit there and be scared, or if they're going to be conformed. Because you had a lot of people when we did try to stage, hunger strikes or, refuse to go to work and stuff. The first thing you heard was, well, if he do it, or you get a bunch of people, then I'll do it. Or then you got people sitting saying, man, I'm going up for parole, or I'm not trying to go to the box, or whatever. But you got to keep in mind, they can't lock us all up. Segregation ain't that goddamn big. You understand what I'm saying? And if you don't fight for something, you fall for anything. And I always heard this. This was an old quote that Huey P. Newton once said. I rather live on my feet than die on my knees. And I really hold true to that adage. You understand what I'm saying? I'd rather fight for something and sacrifice my being, because I'm already being sacrificed as it is. What more can you take from me? I'm already not with my family. I'm already can't wash my ass every day in some prisons, because some prisons let you take a shower every other day. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I have no real existence. So what more can you do to me besides keep me here? And if I could sacrifice myself to help have a better situation for the people that can't fight, why wouldn't I? You understand what I'm saying? So I used to get mad when people used to sit there, and they used to say that. And I used to sit there and say, hey, Uncle Tom's. They're the inmate. You understand what I'm saying? Then you have some people that have been doing it for so long, that's been locked up for 30, 40 years, and they done did the riots and all that. And they already know that people's not going to stand up. When we used to do hunger strike, the only people that was allowed to eat was people that took medication. If you was a diabetic or something like that, where you was required to eat, but you didn't eat their food, we would feed you. We would give you commissary out of our locker. You understand what I'm saying? And fed you and make sure that you was okay. But like I said, it goes back to the ills. Like Storm said, you got some people, they want them cell phones coming in. They want them drugs coming in. So they're not thinking about organizing politically. And if you look at it, it's the same thing out here. You got people not thinking about having a better community. They rather like it the way it is. So they're going to keep selling the drugs. You understand what I'm saying? Even if you walk up to them and try to talk to them on the street, like, look, brother, you are being used. You are being exploited. You are being manipulated by the capitalists. Oh, go ahead, man. I don't want to hear that shit, bro. I got to feed my people. But look, we got this free food program. It may not be steak and filet mignon, but you and your children can eat. You can be clothed. You can be educated. It may not be what you want to eat, but let's be realistic. A lot of y'all that's out here selling drugs, you also on some type of family subsidy assistance getting food stamps. So really, what are you really eating? You're shopping at Walmart eating great value just like everybody else. So it's like at the end of the day, you have to wake up and sacrifice and see that you are a part of the problem if you're not a part of the solution. You have to. You have to. You know what I mean? Because them same drugs you're selling, you're going to keep that general curse going. Because 9 times out of 10, if you were selling drugs and went to jail, your father probably sold drugs and went to jail. Your uncle probably sold drugs and went to jail. So it's like you got to get off that machine for the future. Just like how the original Panthers said that we are the future and the revolution relies with the youth. You got to give them hope. You got to give them something better to see. Yes, no.
What's it? I guess a lot of it as well comes into like them being a little more dynamic than it just being everyone being the same class, because there's definitely two classes that will outright refuse to shake off their class, and there's one class that's a little difficult to do it with. And this because piece of theory I actually need to get written down is I've been looking at like London lumpenization, because I mean, it started off as the third Comintern treated the term lumpen proletarian as a slur, and in that time I would agree, but it's kind of caught on. Lumpen is a society category, and lumpen proletarian is a class of that category. But you also have a lumpen aristocracy that mirrors the labor aristocracy, a lumpen petty bourgeoisie that mirrors the petty bourgeoisie, vice versa, so on and so forth. And the lumpen petty bourgeois and the lumpen bourgeois, they have a prominence in prison, not in numbers, but they do have a prominence in power. And talking of the strategic elements you mentioned earlier, that guy I mentioned, he actually sat in on a meeting between lumpen bourgeois and petty bourgeois gang leaders and the police, facilitating shit in the prisons so that they can get the drugs in that they're selling to people, the illegal phones and other stuff like that that's being shifted around the block. So they can control people and profit off of their ills while within the prison. I mean, what is it? Tobacco and sugar is the most common currencies used for exchange in prisons in the UK. I don't know if that's the same in the US, but over here in the UK, it tends to be sugar and tobacco ways to buy things, because the money you get from the prison itself is fucking worth nothing. You might as well be fucking finding a way to trade about, especially with how big gambling and that is as well.
Here in Jersey, it was when we still had cigarettes on commissary, which we don't no more. It was cigarettes and coffee, but now I think it's coffee and Cash App. but no. Seriously speaking, if you look at the dynamic of prison, right, and they call it correctional facilities. If you have a correction in mind, how is it that people's not being corrected? And you're able to have a stat sheet, so to speak, on the projection of when a person going to come back to prison, how many people is going to come back to prison, this person is more likely to offend, then that's saying you don't have no belief in your own correction system. So you're a contradiction to yourself. The so-called system that you put into play to incarcerate people, to so-called correct them, if you have this information and this data out here that this specific convict is going to come back within a year or two of release for this type of crime, you understand what I'm saying? Then that's sitting there saying that that's a false save. You understand what I'm saying? So we gotta get out of these systems, man, and realize that they know more about us than we know about them, because they have put all this into play. And it goes back to saying that who better to manipulate the laws than the person that created, or the people that created them and enacted them? And that's the same thing with the penal system. They know that these systems is breeding these type of, psychological issues and emotional issues that's likely to keep a person coming back to prison, because they're not helping them. They're not educating the way that they need to educate to prepare people. I did 13 years, and when I came out, I ain't know shit about technology. Nowhere near what I should have known for the advancements that has transpired in those years that I was out. Excuse me. And it put me behind the 8 ball, because I'm not a technology type of individual anyway. So me not really being a technological individual anyway, and then all the advancements that transpired while I was incarcerated, and you didn't put me in contact with it while I was in there, you still got me using regular dial phones. You understand what I'm saying? You give me a little kiosk to send an email, but really when it comes to the fundamentals of technology and computers, I have no idea of it. I'm lost. And then it takes people like my wife or someone that's close to me to try to teach me these things, but at the same time, I still got to get out in the workforce and try to earn a living. So where do I have time to really learn? And then 9 times out of 10, these jobs, like Rob was saying, with the automation, you have to have some type of fundamentals of technology. Some jobs want you to know PowerPoint. They want you to know Microsoft. They want you to know Adobe. They want you to know these things, but you haven't. You don't even know what the hell it is. You understand what I'm saying? So where are they really training you? Did they have skills or trades where you could go to school for electricians or plumbing or anything? A lot of places is not hands-on. I know in Jersey it's not. You understand what I'm saying? It's book information. But anybody know that when you deal with these trades, They don't care what you know in the book. They want to know what you can do on the job. You understand what I'm saying? They want to see your skill. And a lot of stuff that they teach you in the book is obsolete anyway.
Yeah.
How you want to teach me about electricity and everything I know is in the book, but then when I go stand in front of an electrical box, or I go to rewire something, I don't know what the hell it look like because it's you showing me in a book. You teaching me in a book. You're not letting me go get shot once. Don't do that again. You're not giving me the trial and error. You understand what I'm saying? So a lot of the education is just for funding. That's all it is. It's to make it seem like they're preparing us to come out there and be model law-abiding citizens, and they're not.
And I mean, books tend to not work anyway. What was it? It's the Bobby Seale quote. I mean, you could take someone who's experienced like being a mechanic, through experience, he's been working his hard off it, and you can take a mechanical engineer who's never been an experienced mechanic, but he has studied mechanical engineering, and that mechanic that's been working all his life will know ways to fix engines that mechanical engineer has no idea about. Like,
right.
Really good analogy he used, and I feel like that comes into a lot. Also, if they ever give you books on how computers work, it's a stupid way to learn today. It's not like we're in the days of BASIC where you just need like a book of basic codes and then away you are with your terminal. It's like computers these days need someone to sit down with someone and teach them, which is why I think, because of how much it's needed for communists to know how to use computers in our modern day, I feel like communist organizations need to build, like, especially localized education around computers where it's hands-on, especially for elders. Like, I think it's torture to try and on the elder. It's torture on the elder to try and teach them over the internet. Like, you really need to sit down with them so you can properly help and like be supportive, rather than telling them to click on a thing without actually being able to guide them to it and show them how it all works. I mean, that should be the same for everyone in general. Everyone works better in that environment, but like if you're someone who's grown up and reached like an older age, anywhere from 50 to in your older ages, you're going to have like a very limited understanding on like the basics of computers compared to people that are brought up today. And that's able to go through the prison system, regardless of what age you are. You come out, the world's changed 20 years, 10 years, and you have no idea. You're a fucking fish out of water. And that's the easiest way to make someone shut their brain off. Oh, I can't understand these things, so why should I understand it? And that's where a lot of the like incapacity to understand tech actually then starts to build up, because, well, tech just becomes this monotony of jargon and blur. What Marxists sound like when they walk up to lumpens and go, the dialectical relationship of the proletariat of the bourgeoisie and other crap like that. Like that's what I feel like studying computers feels like. It feels like listening to revisionists try and relate to working class people. There's more questions in the chat. Is there anything that can be done in regards to labor rights of the imprisoned to combat the prison industrial complex?
Yes, it's good that you brought that. Well, that's a good question because a couple of weeks ago, the chairman and I of my organization, we met with an organization that is the Abolish Slavery organization. They're working on proposing a bill to basically reword the Constitution, where it says, a person is put into involuntary slavery through the means of, committing crimes and such and such, such and such. And we're basically trying to work with them to get the bill to go up and get voted on, where they can change that. It is slavery when you're incarcerated and you're being paid a slave wage or nothing at all. So that way they can't do it anymore, because if they're going to have industry, then they're going to have to pay you a fair wage. That's one of the ways of going about it. Any other ways of trying to go about combating it at this time, I really don't know, because there's so many other things that I've been focusing on. And that seems to be the most crucial and vital way, is playing the long game with, trying to change the laws and the wording of laws and constitutions and things of that nature. I think that's the best way to do it, because now it has to be upheld. You understand what I'm saying? And people can be held accountable for it, because it's really sad. I knew a guy that lost his toe cutting grass in the prison. You understand what I'm saying? And here this man is maimed for life. And he was doing something that if he was on the street, he could support his family, but he's doing it in prison, making pennies a day. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, there's a lot of different dynamics and understanding of the situation. So I think that's the best way about going about it, to try to change these laws and try to change wording in the Constitution that has to do with slavery. And first, we have to realize that prison is slavery. I believe a lot of people need to stop looking at it as, oh, you put yourself there, or that's where you belong. But yeah, just because I put myself there, if I'm guilty, or if I'm there as a prisoner of war or political prisoner, or any other such situation while I'm incarcerated, at the end of the day, I'm still a human being. I still deserve to have rights. You understand what I'm saying? I still deserve to have some type of life other than existing. So at the end, and if the shoe was on the other foot, you would like to have some of your rights restored as well. So I think, yes, the first thing is to first realize that just because you're incarcerated or a person that's in prison doesn't mean that you should be discarded and looked at as less than a human being. Because then you play right into that. You play right into that original thought process with the Willie Lynch syndrome, when they thought black people was 3/4 of a person. You understand what I'm saying? You play right into that.
I just want to say in reference to prison, to try to change that law is going to be kind of hard, really, really hard. I mean, not that it can't happen, but it's going to be hard because prisons were defined by its very nature to be slavery. To do away with that law is to do away with prisons. I see it. I don't know. I may be wrong, but if you give prisoners the fact of being human beings, then then they're no longer prisoners, as far as I'm concerned. And so it's going to be a hard struggle to try to do away with that clause, because that's the 13th Amendment, isn't it? The 13th Amendment.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 13th Amendment. When I walked into Attica, it was frightful. It was scary because you could see attitudes in the air. You know what shit? The feel attitudes in the air. Get up against that wall. Excuse the word, but the motherfucker doesn't even know me, man. Get up against that wall. I used to get up against that wall, but when I became radical, I'll talk back to him. I said, motherfucker, you better talk to me like a man. I'm a man. No, you're not. I'm a man, motherfucker. And I am integration. But I used to fight, and I guess prisoners have to fight. They have to fight, in order to earn their respect. They got to fight, because other than that, they won't get their respect. Because respect doesn't exist in prison. It's defined by slave laws. You don't respect a slave. You don't.
To get respect in prison, you have to take it and earn it.
You got to take. It goes with the consequences. There's consequences to become somebody who's respected. It's consequence. But then again, you got guards in there that are not bad. They're not bad. Some guards, but the good guards, you know what they do with them? They put them up in a tower. So that they keep them away from prisoners. And the bad guys take care of the prisons, while the good guys, man, are up in the tower 24/7, and they never have no contact with prisoners. It's fucked up, man. It's really fucked up. But that's the nature of prisons.
There's two things really important here, and that's that, like, something that you stressed, Che, in regards to, like, the system and how it works, you're correct. There's no way of ending this. At least the camps, like the camps themselves, won't end under capitalism. That can only end with socialism, like because it's an integral part of its system. Now they technically could get rid of the more direct aspect of slavery. The 13th Amendment, that clause, it could be removed and the prison system would still stay intact. It wouldn't actually remove the slavery component because the incarceration nature of prison and its predominant attack on black people will always be enslavement, but it will basically turn them from the slave camps into the internment camps rather than them creating anything. They're basically just like draped up death camps that are on their way to restoring. There's a prison right now trying to restore gassing people, bringing back the gas chambers. So like, shit's hitting the fan with this system, and that kind of comes into another thing we were talking about. My brain's struggling with. Oh yeah, no. There's a big question as well that people don't tend to ask. Why do you have to incarcerate people for committing crimes or being problems to society? If someone is so dangerous to society that they don't deserve to die and they deserve to live, they should be put into like a type of home for people that are like too criminal to necessarily exist within the society because they say they've got an illness or they've got a problem or they can't be easily cured of that and provided their needs. Otherwise, for people that the majority of people, like we're talking like 90% of people that commit crimes, they just need restorative justice. Like that's my big thing. Like there's no need for incarcerating people. All it does is make people into bigger criminals. Like
What we need to do is define crime. Define it.
good point. Yeah.
What is crime? What causes crimes? When you look at that, when you discuss what causes crime, then you really come to know that in actuality, the person who commits a crime is only because they have no other choice but to commit a crime.
Yeah,
I
there's a
mean,
statistic.
rich people commit crimes every day. Every day they commit crimes, but because of the fact of their status in society, and the fact that they're part of the bourgeoisie, then they don't go to jail. So when we
They
talk
get very
about
short sentences.
we have to define crime, define it first and foremost, and define crime in reference to society. Because people in prisons are not criminals. Actuality, they're not criminals. They're considered criminals. We unknowingly call them criminals, but in actuality, they're not criminals because most of the people that go to jail, whose crime did they commit? What kind of crimes did they commit? They don't commit crimes against the rich people. They don't go to banks and hold up the banks. They commit crimes against poor people like themselves. And that's the reason why it's classified as crime. Now, when you commit a crime against, let's say, a bank, then everybody's talking about it. Even newspapers talking about it. So all you gotta do is define crime and its standards in society.
Yeah, if you rob a homeless person, no one gives a shit. As soon as you rob some middle class nofty, then you go into prison for fucking 6 years. End up strapped with the felony and never get a fucking job again. Like, I mean, there's people still in prison for life sentences for having a fucking 3.5 G, a fucking a baller of weed on them, like. And they're only in there not because they had the weed on them, but because they happened to dare decide to be black and have weed at the same time. Oh, how dare they! It's so fucked. I do have more questions in the chat because I probably haven't been as good at keeping up with these as I should have.
Conrad Shay and Conrad Storm, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm able to probably answer one more question and then I have to go.
Okay. I'll get a good one. Was it how can people get involved or contact Captain James if they want to help or get involved?
You could reach out for me on Well, my phone number, I do things the old way. I'm sorry, I'm an old person at heart. I know I'm not that old, but um I can be contacted through my phone number at 908-867-1627. Or you could hit me up on Facebook. My name is James Mentor. Um you can just search me on Facebook, last name spelling Menter. And definitely just reach out through phone number and give me a call. If we're not in your area, if you're in Jersey, we could definitely probably reach out to you and definitely try to get in contact with you and see what it is that we can do. If you're part of wanting to join the organization, or even if you have any concerns, or you're just looking to be educated politically and revolutionarily, in a revolutionary way. I'm sorry, in a revolutionary way, being educated to the ideals and ideology, and platforms, we can definitely do that as well.
Well, brother, if you're not 75, 77 years old like me, then you're still a young man.
I know that old at heart though, because like I was brought up in the Gen Z era, but was brought up like a millennial, so I just like feel really out of time with people.
Well, I'm only 38, but it feels like I've been here for so long, and I've been, like I said, I have an old soul.
I
So
know the feeling, man.
And technology don't make me feel no younger either. So, yeah. But I said technology don't make me feel no younger either. So,
Yeah, I know the feeling.
And also another contact information is Facebook group name. You can look up New African Black Panther Party on Facebook as well. And you could definitely reach us on there, and I'm available. But definitely, just any inquiries, any questions, I'm more than willing and able to answer. And we got to do this together. We have to wake up. We have to unify. We have to educate. We have to organize. We have to observe. We have to participate. But it's one thing that I do want to instill and say, that you have to be true and real to yourself. And you have to be true and real to the cause, and know that this is a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle that is hard work, and it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of sacrifice, and you're not going to get it right the first go around. You know what I mean? You're not just going to wake up one morning and sit there and say, I got the solution. All this is going to come through trial and error. But you have to definitely be willing to do the work. Don't sign up for something that you don't understand. Don't become a part of something that you don't understand. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because in my opinion, that's one of the first steps of being a revolutionary, is asking questions.
Don't just follow, think.
And
is always the way I put it.
Notice attitude.
Attitude, all power.
Because
we're not people that just attitude, a positive attitude towards yourself, towards people, then you don't need to be involved. You got to have a good attitude.
Well, it's like we ain't all comrades because we all just follow each other blindly. We're comrades because we think critically of the stuff that we say and each other says, and we're constantly criticizing each other because we got to make sure that we have the right idea. And because we're all different people that can come up with different ideas, many of us are going to be wrong many a times, because there's never one boot that fits all. There's never an easy way to come up with a solution to things. Everything involves complex rhythmic thinking.
And you have to be open to working with a lot of different people.
Exactly.
You got to see what's going on right here, right now, at this time that's present. What we're doing is revolutionary within itself. Who would have thought in the early 60s, you understand what I'm saying, or even back in the 1900s, and that a black, a white, a Spanish, and a transgender could really sit on the podcast and be on the same page. You understand what I'm saying? Share the same passion.
I'm Irish as well. That adds fun to the mix.
So you have
and the black comrade come to overthrow the bourgeoisie.
So if you sit there, you think about it. A lot of people would have never thought that something like this could happen. You had a lot, and it comes from capitalism, because racism is a byproduct of capitalism. But I do think, the blacks got to do it for themselves, and the blacks are going to do it on their own for the blacks. And same thing for the Spanish community. But when you had organizations like the Young Lords, and the Black Panthers come together and form a coalition, this is Fred Hampton's dream living out right now. You understand what I'm saying? The work and the blood and the sweat and the tears of Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale and Bobby Hutton and Che Guevara and all these other revolutionaries. This is their dream and their hard work coming into fruition, where we're able to come here and not only educate and raise the consciousness of people, but give them hope. You understand what I'm saying? And let them know that, like we were saying, you can't do it by yourself. One group can't do it by itself, because the same oppression and issues that I'm going through, Che going through, Storm going through, Rob going through, and the same thing throughout the whole world. We are in the United States, Palestine. You understand what I'm saying? We are Palestine. We have the same. We have the same fight. So for someone to sit there and say that's not my fight, that's not my battle, you just don't know and realize that you're oppressed. And it takes people like us to raise the consciousness of that and help give you a viable solution to liberation.
The fact I get welfare and like my lumpen proletarian brethren around the world don't is blood money. So like even me as a part of the literal poorest section of the first world, I am a benefactor of empire. So hell fucking yeah, Palestine is as much my responsibility as it's anyone else's in the first world as it is anyone else's in Palestine. Just as it is with like any other oppressive
the Congo. Africa, there's a lot going on out there. And I think that, when we start to really not individualize, but when we start to look and align and see where the things that we're fighting for is being fought in other so-called third world countries, to speak, then you can get the intercommunalism that we speak about and that we're formed based on. And then sometimes a person has to look further to see nearer. You understand what I'm saying? If you look and you see Palestine, what they're fighting for, and what their issues is in their country, and the same thing with the Congo and Kenya, and then you turn it around and come back to here, then you may be a little bit more able to work with other people of other races, ethnicities, and walks of life.
Well, because of all of us being lumpen proletarians, we exist outside of capitalist realism. I mean, we might taste it sometimes, but capitalist realism's that thing over there that all these like middle-class people thinking capitalism's functioning just right, and we're seeing it on fire. And so when we look out to our comrades in the third world, so-called third world, we should see that international solidarity. We see that strong breadth of struggle. We see people that take the fact that society is fucked seriously. And so me as a lumpen proletariat, who do I have a closer relationship to? All these fuckers in the first world that think we live in some wonderland, or the people out in the third world that actually have their heads screwed on because they're experiencing the elements of capitalism that we exported to them. Same as us in the lumpen, we experienced the remnants of the elements of capitalism in the first world. We experienced the slavery. We experienced the fucking chains around our ankles and our wrists as a part of both a figurative and literal expression of our existence.
I only say that there's only one struggle in the world with various names. That's how I see it. There's only one struggle with numerous names. Call it, give it another name if you want, but still the same struggle. That's how I see it.
All power. I just really want to say, free all political prisoners, Comrade Peltier, Comrade Abdul-Jabbar. I want to say free Palestine, and just free all liberated, oppressed people in the world, especially here in the United States. All power to the people. All power to the people. All power to the people.
All power to the people.
All power to the people. Oh
As
yeah.
they say it in Spanish, pa'lante.
Well, Palante.
He said, when the young lost used to say, "Palante, palante." It only means to, move forward, but it also means power to the people.
Yes.
Richard earlier made a good comment to close out on, and that's been helping comrades daily while they are on the inside. We call courthouses, sergeants, and family members. More comrades should act as a bridge to help revolutionary prisoners organize. It takes a ton of help from us out here.
All power, Comrade Lewis. All power. And we thank you for your help. We thank you greatly, Comrade Lewis, because people got to take it amongst themselves sometimes, and sometimes it takes that one person to be a catalyst to get people to follow behind them, and those are great strides and steps, to help combat the issues that we have discussed here this evening on this podcast. So I applaud you, I commend you, and I thank you on the behalf of those that you have been able to help assist behind the wall, and bring those brothers home as well. Freedom, all power to them as well. Keep fighting. The struggle continues. Dare to struggle.
My love to all, man.
Yeah, we need to follow in Lewis's example all the way. Like, Comrade Richard knows this shit damn well, and every time he opens his mouth about it, he speaks gold.
Yes. There's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of different tactics to to help combat this issue. But it does take people on the outside, and another thing too, like when we do finally be able to do these bus rides to the prison with the families, educate them as well as what steps they can take, to help their loved one on the inside, because a lot of them don't know reaching out to the warden or the ombudsman, or reaching out to your local level of government and things of that nature. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to sit by and do nothing, or you have to run and get a lawyer. You could do things as simple as starting a petition. You know what I mean? Because one thing about the penal system, and the same thing with the capitalist system, they don't like eyes on it. They don't like it being brought to the forefront of the corruption that's being done, that's leading to the oppression. So if you're just able to be another voice, you understand what I'm saying? That helps as well. So for the people that have loved ones that's incarcerated, you're not hopeless and you're not helpless. There are things that you can do.
Exactly. As Thrince has said, exactly. Apply pressure, and it's hitting those pressure points, these weak spots where society is crumbling. The homelessness and the prison population. We are the crumbling, decadent, discarded remains of functional society, and so like we're the best places to start. And what's it? There's a quote from the Comintern on this. A lot of people will try and tell you that Lenin was like anti-lumpen or something, but if you actually hear the guy fucking speak about like lumpen stuff, guy's an absolute G-star. Like, while the capitalists are using the growing army of the unemployed to put pressure on the organized workers by lowering wages, the cowardly social democrats, the independents, and the official trade of leaders of the trade unions distance themselves from the unemployed. They regard them as objects of state and trade union charity and categorize them politically as lumpen proletarian. The communists must understand clearly that in the present circumstances, the army of the unemployed represents a revolutionary factor of tremendous significance. They must assume the leadership of this army. By exerting pressure on the unions through the unemployed, the communists can hasten the liberation of the trade unions from the influence of their scab leaders. By uniting the unemployed with the proletarian vanguard in the struggle for socialist revolution, the Communist Party can restrain the more revolutionary and impatient elements among the unemployed from engaging in individual acts of desperation. If conditions are favorable, the party can organize the mass of unemployed in support of the action of one or another section of the proletariat, and by extending the struggle beyond the limits of the original conflict, can make it the start of a major offensive. In short, the unemployed can be transformed from the reserve army of labor into an active army of the revolution. And I think the homeless and the prison sector represent the most revolutionary aspect of the disenfranchised sector of labor, the lumpen proletariat. that we are the most radical within those ranks, and both the most susceptible to communism and fascism, depending on who we're influenced by and what pathways we go down.
All power.
All power.
And I don't know when that was written, but you can see a lot of the aspects that he speak of in today's workforce and labor force systems, and that's how he was ahead of his time and a genius. You know, over probably 100 years later, it's still applicable today. And that just goes to also show how long this has had a foothold on us. And how long we've been fighting and striving, and that the fight is going to continue. But it's not a useless battle. It's worth fighting for.
It was in 1921. It was the third Congress of the Comintern, before the Comintern turned revisionist with its 6th and 7th Congress. But yeah, absolutely correct. It just goes to show that like a lot of people were seeing this shit time ago, but we keep having to re-unearth it because everyone wants to bury us because these people don't want revolution. You see all these revisionists and all that touting they want it. They don't. That's why they bury us in the dirt or they use us to their own fascist aims.
Right.
No, like, it's been wonderful getting to like bring you on and have you interact with the comrades and show the not only the work that the NABPP wants to do and is already doing, but also your insights show us the kind of revolutionary perspective that is the beating heart of the NABPP and how it operates as an organization and the kind of like fruitful minds of comrades that we will find in an organization like the NABPP.
Well, I thank y'all for the opportunity. It was great. It was awesome. I would definitely love to do it again. I hope that I was able to answer everyone's questions in a clear and precise manner. I hope that I was able to share some insight and some wisdom that can be help to someone else. I definitely really enjoyed speaking with you, Conrad Stone. You, Conrad Shay, definitely being able to just reminisce and think about how broken a lot of the systems that keep us bound, especially being, previously incarcerated individuals, and even talking with Rob earlier. It was a very humbling experience to be able to represent this evening, my organization, the new Afrikan Black Panther Party, and definitely, get the information out there that, the new Afrikan Black Panther Party is here and we're boots on the ground and, we're willing to do the work and help the people that need and want to help, you know what I mean? Because we are for the people. We are the people. That's why we say all power to the people, because the people are the power. You know what I mean? And some people that, when they're caught in their situations, they have that hopelessness that they don't realize that they have the power to change those things that, keep them captive. So it's been great. And I thank y'all for the invitation. And I wish everybody well. And once again, if you're looking to reach out for the new Afrikan Black Panther Party, you can look up on Facebook group name, New Afrikan Black Panther Party, or you can call me personally, Captain James, at 908-867-1627 via text or phone call. And if you have any other questions, I would definitely be glad to answer them on a one-on-one basis. And yes, I see this at the bottom of the screen. They talk about cop cities could potentially facilitate an open air prison society. It definitely can, because they just opened a cop city in Newark, and they're trying to open like two more in Newark and like 3 more in Jersey. And when you research cop cities, it's really sad and ugly. What it is that they're trying to do in these communities with militarization. They're gonna try to make us look like Palestine in a minute, having troops and over over weaponized police forces patrolling our neighborhoods.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, it's a frightening thing, and the UK police is learning from the Americans on this regard. So it wouldn't surprise me if we start getting copsies and shit like that in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
It's really sad because a lot of these communities is already over police. Police is not the answer, you know, and it's just to gain more control and to have more of a terrorist threat and attack in these communities. And it's like, being in prison where you have that show of force, like you said, Rob, they try to make you feel like it's more of them than you. You understand what I'm saying? And that's really just a sad perspective, but it's so true. And the fact of what they do and how they try to do things. When you don't need them and you don't want them, they're there. But when you do need them, they're not around. You know.
Yeah, straight up. I mean, from what's it? Christmas Eve morning, 5 a.m. Me and my mate had to like grab the air pistol and the air rifle. The UK, we don't get to have cool things like guns, but these were overpowered. And we, because a guy was chopping the door with a machete. The drunk guy lives downstairs. And so me and Rob's initiative isn't to go to the police, it's to arm. But his missus, who comes from a more middle class family than us, her initiative was to call the police. Now, Rob told him to tell us that it's just her. I mean, I hadn't been transitioning yet. So, like, as soon as there's a mention of anyone who is like perceived male or is male, the police don't want to turn up. Well, she did call just as a woman on her own with someone chopping the door at the machete. After 45 minutes of fucking around with her on the phone, they told her to go and speak with him. He's chopping the door down with a machete. Go speak with him. That's going to solve the problem. And then hung up and told them to call back if there's any more trouble. It's like, go and die is basically what they told you. It's like, go speak with him. That's going to go well. Like,
I would love to see, much like how the Panthers did in the 60s, and a lot of other organizations that are out and about doing community patrols, policing your own community. You understand what I'm saying? But they make it hard because they make it hard not only, because of the gun laws and things of that nature, what you can do, like in the state like New Jersey where there's no self-defense law. But it's like, it's really sad because at the end of the day, like you said with that scenario with the lady where she called the police, on other places in the world where the police don't come or they don't do nothing. Or if they do something, it's the first thing is to haul them to jail, beat them up, abuse them, brutalize them. And that's not what we need. What we need is grassroots people from the community watching and policing their own community. That's what we need. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that'll be a key solution to a lot of this police brutality and this over policing in these communities. And when people say defund the police, that's the aspect that I see. Us taking up the responsibility of our communities because we live there. We shop there. We thrive there. So why not take it amongst ourselves to police our community? And I would love to see, my organization to possibly get into something like that. Where we could do or if that we have so many chapters and comrades where you can call us instead of the police and we can handle certain situations to a degree. You know what I mean? To help curb that incarceration rate. That's another way to help curb the incarceration rate too, is if you're able to be in a community, and do something about certain issues.
And once you do about certain issues, once y'all do something about certain issues, and the people start looking at that, then they start leaning towards y'all, because that's what happened with the Panthers. The Panthers got into the community, started doing things around the community. The people started looking at what they were doing, and it was right, and so they leaned more towards the Panthers, and that's what y'all got to do also. Do things so the people could see it. And the way situation is now, with this asshole man, he might become the president again. Things are gonna get worse. And we need to tighten up, and we need to really take care of our business in the community, because Trump ain't playing. Trump is coming back full force, and we need to be prepared for that shit. We need to prepare ourselves. We need to prepare the community for whatever happens.
Definitely, revolution is definitely on the brink, like I said, and that's one form of revolutionary. Revolution is preparing the community through the program. You understand what I'm saying? Not just educating them in a political aspect, but educating them in all aspects of life and living outside of the government. You understand what
Exactly.
I'm saying? Each one reach one, teach one. What I have, you have. You understand what I'm saying? And that's a principle that we have to definitely exercise and get out there. That for revolution to work and to head towards socialism, that's what you have to do. You can't keep looking at everybody and
Yep.
everything that's around you as your enemy. You understand what I'm saying? And that's just another byproduct of capitalism and the political power structure that is available and present right now, to keep everybody disillusioned and keep everybody divided. You understand what I'm saying? And I think
Yeah.
that's another thing they do with
Yeah.
these drugs, with legalizing these drugs and putting these drugs out here to keep people mentally bound and quiet. You understand what I'm saying? When they know what the effects is going to do. If you keep them high and disillusioned and divided, then you can come in and divide and conquer. The groundwork has already been laid. So I definitely challenge everyone that's listening to this podcast to most certainly wake up and join the revolution, because the revolution is definitely here and it's on the brink. And like Conrad Chase said, Trump is definitely on his way, or other issues is definitely, or people is on their way that's going to make things a lot worse, and it's going to get harder and it's going to get tougher. And it may even be a point where we're not even able to do podcasts like this anymore. There may be we may not be able to be on Facebook and do things, using the media like we are, you know what I mean? Because we know any organization or any type of revolutionary vanguard movement, they try to silence. So take advantage of the opportunity now, and get educated and get prepared and get active.
That's why social democracy is always much more preferred to fascism. They're both technically a type of fascism, social fascism, militant fascism, whatever nicknames you want for them. But while we can be active and legal, that's always the preferable existence, because as soon as fascism comes, we haven't organized. The revolutionary potential isn't going to save you from fascism. Actually, fascism thrives off of the same revolutionary potential we thrive off of. So if we're not prepared, and they are prepared, it's not even like a if, they actually are, we're fucked. And as a member of the trans community, we're on like the 7th stage of genocide. There's only 10. So like shit's hitting the fan pretty hard for our community. And we're at the point where they're already disseminating us through the media and marking us up for like essentially throwing us into the camps. Like if you listen to the right in America and the right wing here, the Anglosphere is very deep in this, like in the fathoms of transphobia, and I would argue the Anglosphere has some of the most rabid anti-trans positions out of any sphere of influence in the world. The British being a really big influence of this, and America carrying the flame as they always do for anything that comes out of that fucker's asshole.
Well, that's great, and I agree with you 100%. Greatly, I do agree, and we definitely have to take advantage of the opportunities that's available right now. Just not stand by and let them pass. But comrades, I hate to have to rush and have to go. I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope we could do it again. I hope that those that are listening has been enlightened and educated, and their consciousness has been aware. And I hope that we could just continue to reach more people and do a lot more positive political work. Long live the revolution, and everybody have a good evening and a good night.
Long live the revolution.
Take care of yourself, good brother.
All power to the people. Y'all take care of yourselves. Much love.
Okay,
Peace.
take care. Much love.
Love and solidarity.
Now, what we do here?
I will just answer Liberty Twitcher before I close things up. Why do so many people support Trump? Kind of the same way everyone supports fascist movements. A crumbling middle class has its own quasi-anti-capitalist beliefs where it doesn't like the way the system is treating them. And then what ends up happening is demagogues like Trump fill a void. They create this ideology of demagoguery, a mixture of individualism and collectivism. A bit of context: collectivism is not an explicitly left-wing thing. Marxist collectivism is, communist collectivism is, but collectivism just means a society that is collectively organized. Fascism pushes a right-wing collectivism, and that's quite attractive to people. It's what makes American right-wing libertarianism seem attractive. It's what makes fucking Nazism attractive. It's what makes Italian corporatism attractive. There's this idea of individualized collectivism, or as Oswald Mosley called it, collectivized individualism. And Trump basically harnesses that energy and takes advantage of it. He acts as a voice, as an evangelist for those people. And it pushes them forward. That's why, like, a lot of people who probably think Trump is a hack, but will follow him because he pushes their ideas, will go on about, like, God Emperor Trump and all that other cringy crap. As a point of, like, trying to push their demagogue even further because they want more people to follow in their ideas. They don't care if Trump falters and isn't the guy. They just want him to ramp up their numbers and try and get more lower class people to follow the middle class. Trump has a massive base amongst the middle class, and it's building again. But yeah, that's why so many people support Trump. But this was a wonderful stream we got to have with Comrade Captain James. I would say people need to check out the new Afrikan Black Panther Party on Facebook. They need to find James Mentor on Facebook. He's the comrade that was just with us. And Captain James's phone number, just for those that missed it, I did put it in the chat, but I will paste it in the chat again, but I'll read it out anyway. Captain James's phone number is 908-867 1627. I'm going to put that back in the chat again. 908. I'll probably I'll separate it into the 867. American phone numbers are a slog to read, I swear to God. Does it follow the 11 number rule? No, it doesn't. Well, there's the phone number again, comrades. Especially people that are local to Captain James should really go out of the way and get in touch. But anyone, get in touch, ask questions, get involved. Like the Afrikan Black Panther Party is gonna be all over America when it gets bigger on its heels, and the way it's gonna get all over America is by comrades reaching out and wanting to build up struggle. And if you think that your area is fit for Panther developments and you want to get involved with the organization, well, I mean, it's not a simple matter of this, that, and the other, but there's a process to go through that can get you involved and spark up new chapters all over the place. The more chapters, the merrier. Build up our struggle forward.
Let me say something. They said, why do people support Trump? Well, who else is running? I'll say that.
Biden.
Biden is running, and the way they they portray Biden is like he's old, he's getting ready to croak, he's getting ready to die. I hate to say it like that, but he's getting ready to die, and he's very helpless. He can't do nothing for people, so they don't have nobody else. And it seems strange when, I mean, I'm 75 years old. I've seen so many elections in my life that is ridiculous. And in all the elections, there's been 4 or 5 people who have discussed it, the politics, and through their discussions, people are able to get some idea what kind of person he is, and that's how they're able to vote. But this vote is the only person that is running is Trump. I think Trump set this up that way. I really do. I think Trump set it up this way because Trump is a very he's weird. He's a weird
He's
person,
smarter
man.
than people give him credit. Like he's
Yeah,
crafty little fucker, and
he's
he's
not
got
that smart. He's stupid in a lot of ways. So the only reason why he's smart because he got a lot of money. Take all
well,
that
it's
money
I
away,
think
he's
as well. I think he's been reading fascist literature. Like, no way did he sit down and learn at school who like Andrew Jackson was in the way he knows. Like, he knows way too much about like Andrew Jackson's racial theory to like just be an unknowing guy. He's a doofus because he's rich, like rich people always are. But that guy is quite smart. Also, a lot of the stuff he does is quite on purpose. The BBC did a study on this in 86, 87 when he was going through a divorce. His popularity was plummeting amongst the people. And so he was advised by one of his business advisors to basically be a comedian, like act an ass, crack jokes, other stuff like that, as a way to kind of like lower your threat level and seem more satiable to people. And that's why there was that revival of Trump in the mid 90s. Um, uh, and he is someone who is like idiotic because he has that problem all bourgeois people have in this. They're so desensitized to like normal shit. Like, I'm surprised Trump knows how to wipe his own ass because it's probably been done for him before by a butler all his life. Yeah, no, that's rightly said, Gabby. It's like act like Trump or Biden has no idea what they're doing is idealistic. The bourgeoisie choose these people for good reason. But yeah, the crumbling middle class is the main base for Trump's support. He doesn't really have a base amongst the lumpen or the lumpen proletariat or the proletariat. And whenever he does gain it, it's usually because of manipulation coming down from the middle classes trying to rope us into their shit, same way the Nazis did when they roped in lumpen proletarians and proletarians into the Nazi Party in the late 20s through the SA. But yeah, no, people need to reach out to Captain James and the new African Black Panther Party in general, and reach out to the United Panther movement. If you want to learn more about our struggles, we have a book club every Friday, same times as FLAM, so 7 Eastern, 6 Central, 5 Mountain, and 4 Pacific. And we do a movie night, same times again, on a Wednesday. With the UPM. Find the United Panther Movement Facebook page and give us a likey over there. Comrades like Shanti and all that are avid posters of links and other stuff for you to get involved. So there'll be a lot of stuff about available. And that wait, is Shanti here? Okay, hi
Yes,
Shanti. You're
yes,
late.
I'm here.
You want to say something before we close up?
Yeah, I mean, I was already here. I was already here. Um, I wanted to make a few comments. First of all, um, the book that we're currently reading now, our new book for our Sada Shakur book club, is Noel Ignatieve's How the Irish Became White. So if you are ethnically not Anglo-Saxon, if you are Irish, if you are Southern Italian, if you are Sicilian, if you are German, if you are Jewish, if you are New African, if you are Chicano, Boricua, all that good stuff, then this book is definitely for you. This book is by Noel Ignatieff, who is a late Russian Jewish
It's
communist
Ignatiev,
writer.
by the way.
Oh, Ignatieff. Okay. Um, he basically goes into detail about the history of how um, Irish Gaelic immigrants to the Anglo-Saxon U.S. Eventually had to arbitrarily become so-called white or pretty much English in order to not face and deal with any of the caricatures and the oppressive conditions in which they were under, because the Irish are not considered white at all unless you assimilate real hard and try real hard to be English, essentially, because that's all that it is. um and detailing some of the shared history that we have between each other, between the Irish and New Africans and other oppressed people, because the Irish are still under occupation by the British state. So this book is really an important stepping stone in delving into what whiteness is, what the goal and intent of whiteness is, and how we can incorporate decolonizing our identities and political intent from the strain of the Anglo-Saxon system of terrorism in order to create that solidarity between non-Anglo oppressed peoples. So that's the book that we're reading right now. We'll be delving into chapter 2, which is entitled White Negroes and Smoked Irish, I believe. Friday.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone's gonna be the white Negro, it's us.
Yep,
What they
yep,
have the specific term for us, which is Negroid. That's what the English come up with, which means to be like a black person or like a nigger.
yep. So that is definitely on the list for Friday. And second of all, in terms of Trump, um, of course, we already know that the middle class are the largest supporters, which makes the middle class so volatile and so barbaric, because especially the black middle class here, the black middle class, the most
I have the same problem
barbaric.
with the Irish middle class back home. Oh God.
Oh, oh my God, it's literally so bad. I mean, you literally see the black middle class engaging in even more reactionary white supremacist logic, actions, ideology, and rhetoric against political migrants, against poor new Africans. I mean, we were literally talking about this with Matthew Solomon and discussing his documentary reimagining safety, and I mentioned of how barbaric the black middle class is, especially to poor new Africans. Lyle Nichols, who was murdered in Memphis, I believe last year, he was murdered by 5 black middle class pigs. So
That's the thing as well. Like the pigs seem to be like the article of like in America of like Irish and black middle class people oppressing their own communities, and Irish police officers oppressing black communities as well because of how prominent they are in the police force.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, what's it? You want to say your goodbye, proper Jay, to everyone else
Yes,
before you go?
goodbye. Take
yeah. Go
care.
ahead.
I love you. I'll talk to you all tomorrow.
Love and solidarity, Jay. I'll catch you
All
tomorrow.
power,
Okay.
Elder.
Have a great night.
Same to you.
All power.
All
All
power.
power.
God, I love Jay to bits. He's such a fucking G.
No, literally, like people like him are so important because he's lived the life of a poor Boricua and Jamaican person in
Elder
these
love him.
conditions. Uh-huh. He's lived this. So he knows how the middle class is. He knows how they get. And with their reactionary power gaining even more speed right now, it's so important for us to also become ready to defend ourselves as poor and dispossessed people against the black middle class, against the middle class, period, because they do not have our interests. They are loyal to their masters. They are loyal to their uh, colonizer folk. They are loyal to the imperialists. They are loyal to the bone. It doesn't matter if they're in freaking Country Club Hills or they're in the upper middle class black suburbs of Maryland. They're loyal to this system no matter what. And so it's so important for us to be to start preparing to defend ourselves when they eventually come out in all their reactionary glory, because we already know that they love to manipulate poor black people into thinking that the migrants are their enemy and that Koreans are their enemy, and all this garbage that we have been fed for so long, for so many years in these slave factories, that we've become so isolated politically, where the black middle class makes their move to prey on uh, our conscious vulnerability, on our vulnerability, and make us a part of them and have their ideas, adopt their ideas, and continue the cycle of violence in our communities, just like how our colonizers have always been doing since the beginning. So we need to be aware, once again, that the middle class, including the so called black middle class, do not have our interests, and they will go far and beyond to assure that they keep their place alongside their imperializing folks.
Yeah, the middle class in general is like this. It's social chauvinism. Lenin utilized the term as a way to point out these types are the social imperialists. These types are the types that will become revisionists, and these types are the types that will become fascists. Their
Yeah,
angle is all about preservation of society, because the petty bourgeoisie's role in society is to maintain stability. It is to maintain cohesion between the classes. It's to maintain collaboration within society to keep it alive, because they have their own interests in the system that go against the bourgeois interests to a certain degree, but plays into them at the same time. That's why, like, you kind of get a bit perplexed. Social democracy, why does the bourgeoisie keep proposing it? It keeps their system alive. It doesn't make
right.
the system as profitable, though. Now, they will always still maintain some of it because they're not stupid. Like, a lot of people say social democracy's gone. It's like, no, we just have less of it. The fact that we have all these benefits of imperialism is social democracy, is bourgeois socialism. The fact that, like, we don't have factories all over the place except in prisons and certain aspects of society, and, you know,
That's
otherwise they
right.
don't exist. And when they do exist outside the prison, they're always high-paying ass jobs, like not your typical factory worker of the Marx era or the Lenin era. And our world is like completely convulsified by social democracy. It is essential to keep capitalism alive, and the bourgeoisie know that. But what they do is they strip away a lot of it that both the petty bourgeoisie and the proletariat would really like. And so what the petty bourgeoisie is trying to do is organize us in their own interests, because it also technically plays into our interests. Um, and to a certain degree, they might be serious about that. They might be serious about making this collaborative system, blah de blah de blah, where we're all in this together, yada yada yada.
We're not
Um,
all in this together. That's
where
the
like
thing.
they'll envision this Soviet Union revisionist era kind of ass thing, or Strasserism, as their solution to it, where
Yeah.
it fucking I'm close because my mic doesn't. I'm in a hotel room, so I can't speak loud enough for my mic. Otherwise, um, what's it? Um, I'm not a bro. Like, what the fuck? Okay, fucking people. What's it? Um, the you know, a woman what's it with these efforts, they are always pushed in this way that seems opposingly opposing to capitalism. But what they actually do is they solidify a different form of capitalism that capitalists will entertain only for a certain time being. More modern forms of fascism have found ways, actually just like Nazism did, to try and mix more elements in, or allows for certain aspects of liberalism to still be in purveyance whilst bourgeois democracy doesn't exist. But bourgeois democracy not existing does cause problems for the liberal sides of the bourgeoisie.
They do.
I didn't spell mentor wrong. It's his surname, not the actual word mentor. Like, yeah, it's just Mandem's surname. But what's it? The petty bourgeoisie will try and dislocate our struggle as much as possible, but we are like waging way past the context of this stream, so I'm gonna shut things down here.
Yeah, this is a good ending point.
Yeah, because we don't want to push on too long. It's been great speaking with everyone here. Fucking Richard, as always, has been fucking Fucking hell. So that put a bit of a ruiner on the stream. I'm gonna end it now. All power to the people, comrades. Sorry for those difficulties. I ran out of data because Restream in 3 hours used 10 fucking gigs of my data, so I'm stranded with no data for the rest of the month. Wonderful. Don't know why it needs to use that much data just to send my video to a platform that then does the streaming for me, but wonderful. All power to the people, comrades. It was great getting to have Captain James here to drop the beat with us on the NABPP and just showing us the ways in which cadres in the NABPP actuate and think about the current issues and the current climate. And it was especially great hearing prison struggle and homeless struggle being the center points of the discussion. Revolutionary love, all power to the people. Get some good rest, comrades.